Yeah. Andy, we're good? Brianna, we're good? Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the November 10, 2025 City of Clovis City Council meeting to order at 6 p.m. At this time, Councilmember Bessinger will lead us in the flag salute. If you can all rise if you're able to.
Please join me in saluting our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can get roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Ashbeck. Here. Councilmember Bessinger.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce. Here. Mayor Moana-Tua.
Here.
And Councilmember Baskel is absent for this meeting.
Okay. This time, we're going to go ahead and open public comments. If you are here this evening and you would like to address the council on an item that is in our jurisdiction but not on the agenda, you may do so. You have 3 minutes, and so if you can, please come to the podium. You can address the council. And if you can state your name and give your address for the record.
Hello, I'm Highland Kaufman, and I live at 1677 Toll House Lane here in Clovis. And I just want to ask the city manager and the council to consider putting some more signage along the Old Town trails, and that regarding the speed limit. I know that that sounds odd when you're talking about a trail, but I walk the trail every day with my dog, starting from Sierra towards Teague. I have been calling the non-emergency number. We stopped 4 kids. Clovis police were immediately on site on their electric bikes. I was a kid. I grew up in Old Town. I grew up where the ponding basin is off of Minnewawa, where the apartments are now, and that was a vineyard, and we all played on our bikes and that. So it's not that I don't want kids to have a place to go. If they were off the trail, trying to jump their bikes and going into the canal and that, I'd be fine. But going down the trail at full speed through the underground tunnel, and there was an elderly lady that got startled because they don't say on your left or whatever. And then I watched them at the turnaround just before you go back under the tunnel heading south onto Minnewawa. And all 4 of them abreast of each other, so both oncoming, that popping wheelies heading back towards the fire department. That's when I called. And I said, we got 4 kids, they're not on the dirt, they're not in the canal, they're on the trail, and they're at full bore. Then yesterday, I had an actual, adults go by me exceeding 30 miles an hour on an electric bike. I mean, full bore, open, and that. So if we could, look at and don't have them face, like we did with the Coyote Present, and that they face the trail. So you have, if you're walking, or if you're riding an e-bike, you're not gonna necessarily look at that. It needs to be facing the trail. And I would say at the tunnels, at the injection, have them facing both ways, saying it's only a 15-mile-an-hour thing. I would really appreciate, because I think it's definitely needed.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Excellent.
I was just going to comment. Yes. I think it's a great idea, and it's almost like speed and some message. Because I think if I was 8 or 12, I don't know what 15 miles an hour means versus 10. I don't know how fast, you know what I mean? So I think it's like, we've talked about e-bikes quite a lot, but I think it's like maybe both like e-bikes slow down or something, and then 15 miles or whatever. Because I just think that I see the kids on these bikes, they don't know how fast they're going. They have no idea what that even means. But it's a great idea to do more signage on the trail. Mm-hmm. It is startling when that happens, for sure.
I did say to the kids when they were riding the first time,
yeah,
because I had my dog, I said, guys, it's the 4th one heard me for sure. Turned around and looked. They went up, they came back, and it was really, and these are probably 9th graders, 8th graders, so they're not
little tiny.
They have their helmets on, you know, I mean, that part. But it was really funny. All 4 of them went by me at about 5 miles an hour.
That's encouraging anyway.
Thank
Thank you.
I think they know.
Thanks for the idea. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Okay, anyone else like to address the council? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public portion. We're going to move now to the consent calendar items. We are going to pull item 6, Andy or Brianna, to date uncertain. And so with the council items on the consent calendar are routine in nature, we're going to vote on them as a whole, except for item 6. Anyone in the council like to pull any of the items 1 through 5? Okay. Anyone in the public would like to address any of the items? You can address all 6 if you would like. Okay, seeing none, it's the pleasure of the council.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item number 6, and that will be continued to a date uncertain.
Second. A motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent. We have, move on to administrative item. This is item number 7. This is to consider approving resolution amending the city's master administrative fee schedule to include the annual tobacco retailer's license fee. And staff on this is Corporal Brian. And don't know your last, forget your last name. So.
Good evening,
Alcorn,
Mayor.
Corporal Alcorn. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Corporal.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So background on this, on May 13th, 2024, council approved adding section 5.35 of the Clovis Municipal Code, ordinance number 2406, which became effective June 19th of last year. It allows for tobacco retailers' license and application and cost recovery for the background and processing fee, as well as an annual tobacco retailer's licensing fee of $1,000 annually. On September 2nd, staff presented, of 2025, staff presented the annual update for the city's master fee administration, or administrative fee schedule. The background and processing fee for the tobacco retailer's license was reapproved, but council requested additional discussion regarding the annual fee for the tobacco retailer license. Some of the concerns that had come up was if Clovis was one of only a few jurisdictions that have a tobacco retailer's licensing ordinance. In the state of California, there's more than 230 local governments that have a local tobacco retailer license ordinance in place. Some of these date back to the mid to late 90s. All of those entities, with the exception of about 3 of them, have an annual fee. There were a few that had a biannual fee, but as of today, they're all an annual fee. The average cost for a tobacco retailer licensing ordinance in comparable cities to the city of Clovis, which would be like population or number of retailers, is more than $800. And those are the cities that have also taken an active role in enforcement or proactive approach to tobacco retail enforcement. Comparable cities that have been stagnant or haven't updated ordinances since as far back as 1998, the average cost is still over $700 for an annual license. And in the comparable cities, some cost more than $1,600 annually. With the whole state, the price can go up to $2,200 annually for a local tobacco retailer's license. Prior to us presenting the proposed costs for recovery, we had consulted with state agencies, including the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, Department of Justice, the Department or the Attorney General's office. We worked with the City Attorney's office and also used our current fee schedule, which included fees that the police department imposes on some businesses, such as the entertainment permitting fee, which goes up to $1,400 annually for all of those businesses. And when we took in the enforcement numbers that we had at the time, that we were working off of a state grant, $1,000 for an annual fee basically allowed the police department to recover a reasonable amount of cost in renewing the licenses annually, cost recovery for inspections, education of business owners and employees, officers, and then also to conduct minor decoy and shoulder tap operations outside of locations, primarily when taking in complaints from citizens or other businesses. All of the tobacco or licensing required at tobacco retailers, business licensing, state tobacco retailers licensing, and our local tobacco license ordinance are all renewed annually. And a big part of why we do that is because those are enforced under the tobacco retailer licensing ordinance that we now have in place. Some of the businesses, when we went out initially for this, we found that they'd been operating without City of Clovis business licenses for up to 5 years, and there was no enforcement or no check on them up to that point. Businesses had changed hands several times without the city being notified or informed. And then the enforcement for the state licensing will also come back to us as a primary enforcing agency in the city of Clovis. The state licensing agents or investigators who go out for tobacco retail licenses are non-sworn personnel out of the Tax and Fee Administration, and their jurisdiction for the Fresno office covers from the city of San Jose all the way through to Tulare County, and from the coast all the way to the Nevada border. And there are 6 of them in total for every tobacco retailer. So a lot of that comes back to working with us on the local level to ensure that these are appropriately enforced, that everybody's up to date on their annual licenses. The primary costs are enforcement and education, as well as evidence disposition that we see when enforcing this ordinance. We had the numbers going into it because we'd received a state grant originally probably about 5 years ago or so. The state grant funded and funds today about $25,000 a year, but that limits us to 24 retailer inspections, 20 businesses targeted with minor decoys and shoulder tap operations, education for about 1/3 of the officers in the department, and education for 45 retailers or retailer employees. There was a major deficit when it came to equal enforcement, equal treatment of all the retailers, because currently the city of Clovis has about 70 tobacco licensed retailers. So the state funding at about $25,000 a year funds us for about 1/3 of what we need for just the enforcement and the inspections. And that's 1 inspection a year, 1 time being targeted with a minor decoy and 1 time with a juvenile outside. That doesn't take into account additional follow-up inspections, which are generally conducted within 30 to 60 days to ensure compliance if a violation has been found. And none of it takes into account, and the grant can't be used right now for disposition of evidence, which is one of the primary costs that we'll see. Currently, the Clovis Police Department has about 10,000 seized tobacco items, the majority of which, if not all of them, are considered hazardous material now. The state valuation to destroy 1 tobacco item is $50 per item. So if we look at the 10,000 items that we're sitting on, we're looking at a valuation of about $500,000 just for destruction. And the cost recovery on that, there's a huge deficit just in the money we take in. We've taken more of a education over enforcement approach because of that, or that being a key factor. Tobacco items are regularly changing in appearance, name, advertisement, and so many distributors are distributing products to retailers that are actually illegal. And when we go into the store, we may find 2 dozen vapes or 2 dozen packages of cigars. What we do is we prefer to educate the retailers in most instances, if we can, give them an opportunity to return them to the distributor that they got them from, so that they're getting some of their money back, as opposed to taking a more heavy-handed approach where we're issuing a $1,000 fine, a 60-day suspension, and then seizing the items at the cost of $50 to us to dispose of. The cost recovery also goes into, or for the annual fee, as the licenses are renewed every year, we don't charge a new background fee, but we do go through the same process. It generally goes by about twice as quick, because we verify prior violations. If they have any other businesses, if they're business owners in multiple cities, we'll double check on those businesses as well. Because what we've seen is some business owners, if they find out that we're taking a proactive approach to enforcement and getting rid of the illegal products in their current stores in Clovis, they'll move inventory to stores in Fresno, which isn't good business practice. If they're still violating the law, we want to take action with that. And we regularly work with other jurisdictions for training for universal enforcement as well, so they're not getting 2 different stores as best as we can. With that, again, the annual review of the licenses, that cost comes straight out of the annual fee as well, on top of the enforcement, the education. And then what we've done is we've also hosted several education courses targeted at more than 50 of our retailers, invited them to the police department to come in with myself, other members of the Clovis Police Department, and also members of Alcoholic Beverage Control for the ones that are crossover businesses to provide training for them. The cost also goes into visiting the businesses and disseminating education material to them by police department employees, as well as being there and on scene to answer any questions with an open door policy, whether that's over the phone, in person, by email, or anything of that. Let's see. I think that's it for me. We also, actually, so something else that we've done is, as we've gone through this process, we've done a evaluation or consistent reevaluation of our numbers and worked with other local governments, particularly in Fresno County, the most recent being the Department of Public Health, who's going to be heading up the tobacco retailer licensing enforcement for the unincorporated areas of Fresno County. They have about twice as many retailers as we do, at about 138. And non-sworn employees with no evidence seizures, their valuation when they came back, they were looking at $4,000 annually for cost recovery for the same things that we're doing, minus the evidence collection and destruction. The fee seems unreasonable, so they've taken it back and they're looking at something closer to what we are, somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range annually. But we're seeing consistently, not just in Fresno County, but throughout the state, as these ordinances are being adopted, the jurisdictions that have had these in place are either increasing their rates or starting out higher, with some of the more recent ones over the last month or so. I'll give you examples. Santa Rosa is more than $1,000, and Modesto, I think, is one of the most recent, and they're starting theirs at $1,100 annually for that, because they're now getting into this and taking a proactive approach. With those fees, when we take in citizen complaints from other businesses or from sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here, from citizens, there's many other crimes that we're coming across, such as illegal gambling operations, sales of drugs. So when we look at the state valuation that we originally got for 2 officers to go into these businesses and conduct these operations, we come across officer safety issues. So now we're running them with higher minimum numbers. Generally, at the very minimum, we're running with 3 officers. And so not taking into account the evidence, the citizen complaints, but the 1 inspection, 1 target with a minor decoy, and 1 detail with the shoulder tap, we're looking at a cost of more than $76,000 per year just on the bare minimums that we'd be going into, not addressing the complaints or the follow-ups or the evidence disposition, any of those other things. So that's what I have for that. Our recommendation is amending the city's master fee administration to include the annual tobacco retailer's licensing fee. The proposed fee, though it doesn't give us complete cost recovery, is a reasonable amount to allow some cost recovery and is similar to other jurisdictions. And we can still look and will still look for additional grant funding to help fund the evidence destruction, which again is probably going to be one of our primary costs coming out of this. Questions?
Go ahead, Councilman Bessemer.
I have a couple of questions. We have 70 businesses approximately.
Approximately. There's businesses that are coming in and changing hands regularly.
And what's our largest national retailer that we police?
I'm not sure who the largest would be. It'd probably be someone maybe store-wise, 7-Eleven, Save Mart, Vons, maybe one of those.
But so the markets, does Walmart do it?
Walmart does not sell any tobacco
Okay,
products. Target does not sell any tobacco products.
So it would be maybe Vons, Save Mart, a large supermarket chain, and then our smaller retailers. Do any of the cities or counties that you looked at, because if you're Vons for a second, they can absorb $1,000, but if you're running a small square footage business, $1,000 is gonna bite a lot more. Do any of those other jurisdictions do a square footage?
I haven't seen any regarding a square footage. There's one other jurisdiction that does a risk factor, which then brings theirs up to $800. There's basically 3 levels, bringing theirs up to about $800 for a higher risk factor. And if we consider that and take it in, if we take that into consideration, we look at it, the Vons, Save Marts, the pharmacies, the 7-Elevens, Those are the ones that tend to have the fewest violations and sell the least amount of products. So store-wise, their square footage may be the largest, but their tobacco displays and number of products tend to be the smallest.
And we know that because we've done enforcement operations and.
I've been to all of them.
Okay, all right.
Been to all of them multiple times. With that, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So if we looked at basically on risk factor for multiple violations, since the ordinance has come into play, we've had violations of more than 60 of them, but we've addressed most of them with, as long as they weren't repeat offenders, they were minor displays, with warnings and education as opposed to, again, heavy-handed stuff that may close a business down or have a bigger financial impact, because if we issue that first citation, the follow-up citations go up to $1,000 for 5 consecutive years after that. So if we look at cost recovery on the front end, where it's to do the inspections and have an understanding of good business practices and support that, we're not going in heavy-handed where we're creating a divide between us and the business owners.
Have we considered taking action against the distributors that are bringing those illegal items into the city? Is this a municipal code violation?
So not for the distributors, and the distributors are allowed to carry most of those illegal items because they're allowed to partake in interstate commerce and ship them out of the state. The problem is, there's 2 problems. The first is when they have illegal items that are blatantly flavored, we know they are, or they're untaxed, they're saying they're shipping them out of state. If any retailer buys them, they're not giving them on the invoice that they're supposed to have. What we see is a lot of times these manufacturers, which are coming from out of the country, are shipping in products in boxes with labels that are saying they're unflavored, that they're clear, that they are legal. The distributors take them, whether they know that or not, then they're giving them to the retailers. And because it's a constantly changing environment, we can see those changes come in as little as a week. And a lot of retailers are re-upping their inventory on a weekly basis with distributors who come to their stores, or if they go to the distributors directly. And Clovis doesn't have any distributors inside the city limits that we take action on, or can take action on. We don't have any of them. There are some in Fresno and Tulare counties, and what we do is we work with the state, primarily the Tax and Fee Administration, because they can take enforcement on them. And our state grant, being that it's a state grant, if they wanted, we could go with them and take action on them on the state level and fund it through the grant, but we can't do it through the city's ordinance.
Have we ever worked with the state on a retailer that is a distributor that's consistently sending illegal products into town?
Primarily, the way that we work with them is we pass the information on and then wait for follow-up. Again, there's only 6 of them, so
Right.
Having the ability to make it timing rise where it works out for a minimum of 2 or 3 of them to be able to do it, they have their hands tied in many aspects, but we do work with them in that aspect to go after them. One of the things that we get annually from our retailers is a list of their distributors, because that is one of the primary complaints. So that if we are having a single distributor, that I have 20 or 30 of my retailers saying that they're violating it, we can go back and tie it back to 1. The problem is there's distributors all over the state, so they can order from a distributor in Livermore and have it all shipped here. And then we can pass that information on, but we have no plans of going to Livermore to try and hold that distributor accountable. And then with the products constantly changing, there's a good chance that that distributor who ordered it from out of the country might not know, because until somebody tells them, law enforcement, for example, because the boxes say unflavored, they're not labeled appropriately. One thing that is coming into play that may help with that significantly is by the end of December of this year, Department of Justice Attorney General's office have to come out with a comprehensive list of all the legal tobacco products that are allowed in the state of California. Now, that will help our retailers big time when they're going back and forth to distributors, but as new products come out and change, they still have to go through the testing process to either be tossed from the list or not, which comes back to us being the enforcing agency, seeing them on the street, talking to retailers, users, that kind of thing.
Do any of the other agencies have a kind of a laddered fee where, let's say, a business opens up, we do the background, and let's say, just for example, our fee will be $500. And if they continue to, they're in compliance, that can continue to be a $500, but if there's a violation, then it bumps to $1,000 or higher. any other agencies doing anything like that to kind of help the mom and pop places?
I haven't seen any retailers doing that. The closest one would be that one jurisdiction that has the risk factor. So I haven't spoken to them. They didn't fall into a category of being comparable in size or retailer numbers for me to reach out to them. But the way it appeared was that they start at the bottom tier, and if there's some other risk factor, and I don't know if that has to do with safety areas or zones they've put around like use sensitive areas, if it has to do with prior violations. But that's the only tiered one that I've seen in that aspect. With actual fines and coming back to them, some jurisdictions start with a first violation of $2,500 and they go up to $20,000. For us, we sit at $1,000, and then for 5 years it's a $5,000. So again, that's a significant fine and impact, especially if you take into account the suspension on licenses, which is why we try to be more retailer friendly and meet with them and talk with them and basically educate them as best we can instead of just coming down heavy handed.
If a business also has an ABC license and they are acting in violation of the tobacco rules, does ABC have the power to take unilateral action on their alcohol license?
So legally, yes, but each office operates differently. So I'll give you an example. In Sacramento County, they don't have the same training as tax and fee administration or local law enforcement. In Fresno County, they're hands off as it comes to tobacco enforcement.
Okay. And then last question. $50 per tobacco item to be destroyed. Right? How did we come up with that number?
So the way that it works is most nicotine products, the vape devices, the nicotine juices, the batteries are all considered hazardous material. So California shut down most of the locations. We used to use Covanta to destroy hazardous material, narcotics, stuff like that, and those locations all got shut down because of environmental reasons in California about a year ago. So it kind of left all law enforcement agencies scrambling a little bit to try and find a way to get rid of hazardous material, narcotics, that kind of thing. So there's 2 locations that we can do it through the state, and it's the $50 valuation for that cost to maintain those hazardous materials. And if we were to move to the state's way of doing it, evidence processing, booking it, taking the trip to basically Sacramento or Los Angeles and destroying it, they still come back and build a business on top of all of our fees, the $50 per item for their cost recovery as well.
So if I hear you correctly, the state shut down Moss Landing and all these other incinerators because of environmental reasons and opened up their own. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I don't know 100%, but that's the way I understand it. So I regularly...
It sounds like something the state would do. I'm a little troubled that a vape pen is $50. And that's just what they charge, and we don't have anything to say about that.
Per item, yes, sir. And we look at it, and we're looking at more cost-effective ways in private companies to do that. And what we've seen so far is that we can get some cost recovery if we partner with other agencies, Department of Public Health, for instance. And for us, we're looking at possibly a per pound, but we're sitting on items for about 2 years now because we don't have a cost-effective way to dispose of them without hitting the businesses much harder or putting a big dent in our resources.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I had no idea this could be this complicated. So, take me, okay, just refresh my memory. In my tiny mind, this started out around tobacco retailing of all kinds, right? We're not just talking vape pens and things that are illegal flavored vapes. No, we're just talking all tobacco, right? Cigarettes, what is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's where we started. And that we should limit or charge fees so we can make sure we inspect and blah, 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 yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
So we've now gone to, because now there's all these things. So I guess 2 questions. So it's all tobacco, any kind of sales of tobacco? All
Yes, ma'am.
kinds?
Any tobacco products, and our ordinance is a little more comprehensive for some of the retailers in terms of tobacco paraphernalia, such as rolling machines, that kind of thing.
Okay, and so I think the most alarming thing I've learned lately, that's not true, everything is alarming, but when we had our joint meeting with the school board, they were talking about vaping, and they were talking about people selling asthma inhalers and using that as a vape pen, for example. So when you're out there doing this work, it's all of that. You're looking at, and you're looking for and finding all of that. Sweatshirts with the little hoodie thing that's actually an inhaler on it, like all that?
Yes, ma'am, and because it's a constantly changing environment, they're finding new ways to hide it, new ways to add it, that kind of thing. So one of the things that we were able to outlaw with our ordinance is like the stash cans, stash containers, things that are basically trying to trick you into knowing what it is. But we did meet with the school district and do a presentation for parents, students, and faculty regarding this last month as well. We partnered with the California Health Collaborative on that, and we're able to bring a lot of information back to the school district and some parents.
I guess in a perfect world, it would be super great if Fresno County had a single ordinance and a single process, because the amount of money that every jurisdiction spends doing what you all have done, and now the county's trying to do it as well, but I'm sure that's a Pollyanna dream, but that would have made a lot of sense if we could have done it collectively, which we didn't, but this seems like such a perfect opportunity. So it's the same across the county, because if it doesn't, if they don't want to buy it in Clovis, they're just going to drive to Kerman or whatever,
And-
which I know you recognize.
And that's one of the primary complaints we get from retailers is
Yeah.
how can they stay in business if a competitor across the street is able
Right.
to sell it? And that's where it comes down to keeping good partnerships and good relationships with our
Yeah.
neighboring agencies. And we have worked with the school district as well as Fresno PD and being able to target some of those retailers in Fresno, utilizing our grant and with the complaints that come in.
And this applies to cigar lounges, those kinds of businesses as well?
Yes, ma'am.
So you sell any kind of tobacco, one cigar a day, and this applies to you?
Yes, ma'am. Because at the same time, the state license is the same, so we didn't want to try and pick and choose, single people out and separate it that way. The state license is the same, their business license is the same, and our retail license ordinance
Okay.
is the same.
That's fair, thanks.
Diane, did you have questions?
Not really a specific question, but I am interested in kind of where Councilman Bessinger was going with the idea of, because what kind of bothers me, there's the difference between the, more corporate style versus the mom and pops, but there's also the difference between the good actors and bad actors too. And so I don't want to put undue burdens on our business owners who are doing it right, although it sounds incredibly complicated and difficult to get that right 100% of the time. Because like you say, everything's changing all the time. You've got distributors, you've got the people bringing it in, the producers from overseas and all of that. But that would be my concern, is looking for a way to really target those who aren't doing their job to the best that they can and not have the burden on those who are doing everything they possibly can. I do appreciate very much, and you guys are consistent about this, regardless of what we're talking about, of focusing on education and not being heavy-handed that way. So I think that's really important and valuable, and I appreciate that. But I have a feeling we might have some public comment on this, and I'm anxious to hear what they have to say.
If I can have a follow-up.
Yes, go ahead. Mhm.
Tell me about the risk factors, that you were talking about. What is that?
I don't know how the other city does it. The way that they labeled their ordinance or the public information that was easy to find on it was that they have 3-tier structures and it's based on risk factor for the business. I'm not sure how they do it. I can reach out to them, but they weren't a comparable size city. They didn't have a comparable number of retailers. So we took their information in as one of the 230 local governments, but didn't go into depth in it.
I didn't know that Coventa and Moss Landing had gone under. Have we reached out to the Air Pollution Control District to find out if there's any other sites in the state other than the shakedown that we're going to get from state agencies?
So with that, we have worked with our property room to identify, again, those other maybe more cost-effective ways to get rid of it. And more recently, we had a company that would actually come here and pick it all up and then take it, but then it turned into separation, and it's probably the way we'll still go as the most cost-effective. We haven't reached out to air control, but just these specific private companies instead.
I'll reach out on our behalf. I have contacts over there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple questions, Corporal O'Brien and Corporal Alcorn. Of the retail stores, of the ordinances, how many, Fresno County is going to implement theirs, but then how many cities in Fresno County have this ordinance or to similar TRL ordinance?
I'm not sure how many in Fresno County have it currently. I've helped or spoken with Department of Public Health, Fresno City Council on it. I know Fowler has it. There's more that are implementing it. Sanger Unified School District has a grant to start enforcing it, but I'm not sure the exact number off the top of my head that have it.
Okay. And so from what I understand, if they get a state TRL, they can operate in a city, any city, and sell. But then we are adding an extra TRL fee on top of the license they already have from the state to sell the same products that the state authorizes. That's what we're doing, correct? Because we're being proactive.
Yes and no. So the state issues it for a specific address, location, city, owner, or corporation at one location. The state authorizes them to sell tobacco products. The city can be more restrictive on that, but they can't be more lax on that, on the state regulations. The state also doesn't come back and enforce many laws that pertain to illegal products. They focus primarily on the flavor ban and cannabis sales and licensure. So they won't address illegal products that are illegal federally throughout the United States. Doesn't matter, they leave those. An example would be there's only 34 different vape devices that are authorized by 4 different manufacturers. But if you go into nearly any tobacco retailer in Clovis and Fresno and the county, doesn't matter where, you're going to see vape devices that are manufactured from a plethora of different companies. And again, they change constantly. So the state doesn't enforce all of the laws. They have their laws that they have
But the retailer has to pay a state fee.
$265, yes, sir.
Do they have to pay a federal fee?
No,
sell
I don't
tobacco?
believe so.
Do they have to pay a health fee?
It depends on the type of business and what other
For tobacco.
items they sell. For tobacco,
Tobacco?
they have a seller's permit only
Okay.
for tax purposes, and then the tobacco retailer's licensing through the Tax and Fee Administration.
And then with us, probably a business permit to operate their business, and then this new fee.
A City of Clovis business, in Clovis,
Yeah.
a City of Clovis business license, and then our tobacco retailer license, yes, sir.
For our fee for the entertainment, are you doing yearly inspections on them with their fee?
No,
And
sir.
they pay?
No, sir.
But this one you're going to do, but you're taking money from the others and you're not doing an inspection, so there's no cost? There's no police hour cost for this other fee?
I don't have any of the information on how that fee came about.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't fall under my position in terms of regulating those businesses. So I'm not sure why that cost recovery came about, if it had to do with calls for service at the businesses, the combination of the alcohol sales with certain types of entertainment. I'm not sure.
And then those who sell alcohol also have an alcohol license from ABC, but we don't require a city permit to sell alcohol, correct?
Correct. I don't know that there's
Siri thought I was talking to her, sorry.
I don't know that there's a,
I found this on the web for permit to sell.
I know.
no, sir, there's not an additional city ordinance for that. The state has sworn law enforcement for alcoholic beverage control, and there's an exception. The state gave cities the ability in the mid-1990s to impose this to help with enforcement and pick up that slack. I don't know that there's an exception in the state to allow us to impose an additional alcohol license.
And our officers potentially we do alcohol inspections, because minors and all that stuff, right?
Yes, sir, we do, and that does fall under my
So
position.
Okay. And we can absorb that. That's part of the job of your officers, your department.
That is state funded as well through grants.
Okay. And then with regards to the cost itself, with the education, when did the education begin? Prior to us approving or after us approving the ordinance?
Prior to us approving it, I hosted courses as well as visited the retailers. And then since then, we've also hosted that and disseminated education material.
So prior to us passing the ordinance, you went out to a lot of the shops already and told them, this is what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you contact APCA? You know APCA, correct?
Yes, sir. I've met with them on 3 occasions. I reached out to them in July of this year without a response, which was, I guess, during some change in leadership from their president. And I reached out to them again last month without a response. I was able to get a hold of a representative in Sacramento, but when I reached out to the Fresno president, I did not get a response.
Okay. So in other words, there's no formal coordination with APCA for education. We tried, in other words, right?
Yes, sir.
But never one where we worked with them and their membership of convenience stores to do an education.
No, sir. And
Okay.
part of that reason is they're limited. They don't incorporate all of our retailers. And so they've asked the police department for a list of all stores that were in violation, and we didn't feel comfortable releasing information by non-membership. So on at least 4 different occasions, I've requested their membership so they could help self-regulate and say, hey, these stores have had violations. How can we educate them better? And every single time I've been told, hey, we'll supply you a list of our membership, and every time they failed to come through. So.
Okay. And then, since we've implemented this, do you know of any closures of small mom and pop shops since the inception of the ordinance till now?
Not mom and pop shops that weren't tobacco shops that had significant other crimes related to them that we were also investigating, or continued citations, continued punitive action as well.
So there's been some that have closed for various reasons then?
Primarily because of enforcement. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Excellent. And then I wanted to ask, for the products that we have taken, 10,000 items, are we at risk of taking items that have not or may not be on that list that is coming at the end of December 31st, where we will have to, so for example, flavored right now, I understand, is not truly defined of a list from the Department of Justice for this law, and they will get a list by the end of the year. Are we at risk for taking product that potentially, when that list comes out, goes, oh, it was valid?
No, sir.
So all the items we've taken are items that we are for sure are not at risk of violating the list that potentially will come out?
Yes, sir,
this year.
because those items are specific to specific products.
Okay.
But when we take them, or any item that becomes illegal based under the flavor ban, specifically has either a characterizing taste, aroma, scent, or sensation. So as companies have come out and said, hey, this no longer has a menthol taste, they've added a sensation to it. So the state has been proactive in that aspect, and the Attorney General's office hasn't said, okay, well, we're including sensation now. So if it comes to any of us, when we're doing those, if we can say that, yes, it has a characterizing, we don't taste them, but taste, aroma, sensation, anything like that, because there are products that we already know are 100% illegal.
Okay.
And then some of those products also, they aren't just seized under the flavor ban. There's failure to pay taxes, failure to pay provide invoices showing that taxes were paid, that they acquired them legally in the first place.
Thank you. So that gives me assurances. That I appreciate that. And then with regards to the violations that you stated in here, there's only about 11, 12 that still need to be, the permit needs to be updated from what you're saying, because 70, 58 are in compliance. With regards to the permitting, it's only about 12 left that are in some process of getting their permit
Yes, for
rectified.
the 2025, 2026 year, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
2024 to 2025, we did get everybody into compliance that
okay.
wanted to come into compliance. Some of them chose to continue selling illegal products until we came down on them with fines, and then they closed.
Okay.
But we did have compliance for everybody for 24 to 25, and now there's only about, again, 12 that aren't in compliance as of today. But they are active, the majority of them are actively working on that and in the process.
If we didn't have the ordinance, we would still be obligated to enforce this state law, correct? It would still be a duty of yours.
To meet our grant standards, yes, sir. So 24 inspections of a local retailer,
Yeah.
6 minor decoys, and 6 shoulder tap operations. Yes, sir.
And so, because we are proactive, that's why we are justifying this $1,000 per retail store, well, per permit, to continue to be proactive.
Yes, sir. And it also funds the complaints that we came in. So many of the complaints that we would get originally, such as the drug sales, the sales to minors, the illegal gambling operations, those would go to our special enforcement team now. We've been able to take that workload off of them for the tobacco retailers and absorb that with our costs and fund it through the retailer licensing now.
I would think you would have to do that no matter what. I'm just trying to see, right? Because if there's a complaint, you're going to call, you're going to take care of it, because that's what Clovis PD does. And so I'm trying to understand why we are charging a pretty hefty fee. And so I look at it, I can see that the first year, because you're educating, it's taking 4 hours per officer, you're really educating. But I'm looking at it, go, why annually? Okay, why? What is it if they're compliant? I believe the industry also want to weed out those who are not compliant. And so this is very heavy-handed on, and a lot of them are just mom and pops who really, I think, want to be compliant. This is the only business they have in our city. And so I'm trying to, tell me why. I mean, the disposal, well, we took it, so I don't know why we're punishing them, because they, you know, it's us. Enforcement, we need to be doing that no matter what. We get, for example, from what I've heard, okay, from what I've heard from the industry is we were not very good pre-approval of going out to the industry to let them know this was coming. I don't know, maybe they'll say, you said we tried and we were there. But I know that in the building industry, we're very good. If we're going to increase water rates, we're working with the industry. We're telling them it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Then it gets approved. And so a lot of business owners are wanting to be compliant. And a lot of them, I think, are very, you know, taken by surprise of how hefty it is. And so that's why, in speaking with some of them, it just goes, I'm sort of with Councilmember Bessinger and go, how do we help them out and yet still be proactive at the same time? And I don't know if you have an answer for me for that, but I think I need something to help
Sure.
justify that.
And
yeah.
so a lot of it, like I said, does come back to supporting good business practices. So since the implementation of the ordinance, we've seen more than 60 stores still in violation. Of those, I think we've written 27 businesses have received citations, some multiple, because they either refuse to or don't want to come into compliance. The majority of those have decided to close now. Most of what we've cited for was state law beginning December 1st of 2022. What I did before the ordinance came into effect is I personally went to every single business, gave them a hard copy of what we were proposing, as well as my contact information to reach out with comments, concerns, questions, anything like that. When it came to actual licensure and getting everybody compliant, businesses already had a 90-day period from June of last year to come into compliance. Many of those we gave an extended period of time to come into compliance. And again, we still found more than 60 of our 70 or so retailers with some violation. And just over the last 2 months or so, doing preliminary inspections just to see who it was, help prepare information, more up-to-date information just for this. I went to 27 retailers, 23 of them were found to be selling illegal products, so 85%. And
let me just
sure.
ask you a question. So if they're in violation, you have a means to recover that cost with the fine system, though. So in other words, I'm trying to understand why the yearly permit, because if they're in violation, you can fine them, 1,000, whatever, and then take their permit away, that kind of stuff. So in other words, you have a mechanism to recover the cost. Why the yearly $1,000
So not all
permit
those,
fee when I look and go, there's nothing else other than entertainment? And the entertainment, you don't even go and inspect, but yet you charge them more. So when I'm looking at it, I'm trying to go, what is it? And I will also say, and we gave you Measure Y to be able to give you more officers to do this. And yet you go, oh no, we're going to nickel and dime everybody, you know, here. So I'm trying to understand why such a hefty $1,000 fine on these shops. And I just need to hear, we already have a fine mechanism, so if they aren't right, fine them. They also wanted, you know, they're willing to pay that fine because they know they're in violation of the law. But just to operate, I still have to pay $1,000. So
So that's not always the case as well. So we've had numerous businesses that we've utilized the fines for, some going as high as $17,000 to $20,000. We've seen $0 of that come back because the businesses will close. The fines were issued to the business, and so there's no cost recovery in that. So we'll spend dozens, if not hundreds of man hours on one location to see zero of that money come back. But in the meantime, one of the cost recovery mechanisms through the annual fee, one of the primary complaints that we see is an unfair business environment among our retailers. So that's something that we've preached from the beginning is, well, I can hold them accountable in Clovis. I can create a fair and equal business environment in Clovis, and that's the industry also helping with that. When I go to those retailers who are trying to do right, whether I've been there half a dozen times and they've been out of compliance, there's still a level of understanding like, hey, you've got half a dozen illegal products here. Get rid of it, get your money back from the distributor instead of saying, I'm going to fine you $1,000 today, $5,000 tomorrow, and suspend you for 60 days or 90 days or 180 days, whatever the case may be. And again, having more than 60 of our retailers out of compliance, we would be doubling what our cost recovery would be on that, putting more people out of business, I believe, by issuing 60-day suspensions and $1,000 fines for 63 of our 70 retailers if we'd approached it that way. Instead, we have a working environment with our retailers where they can come to me, an open line of communication with me or anybody in the office who can address that and basically answer questions for them that way. So,
Go ahead, Drew.
I have a follow-up.
yes, sir.
I recall in the 90s, we had a liquor store that was consistently selling to minors, and ABC they would not revoke the license. They kept fining them, and they kept basically violating and just paying the fines because it was part of the cost of doing business. We went ahead and took their 24-hour business permit so that they had to close at 10 o'clock. And that got them to come to the table and comply, because we really cut their business model up pretty good. What percentage, and ballpark is fine, of the businesses that are in violation are 24-hour businesses?
I don't know, very, very small number of them, if any.
And I don't know if this is a PD or a planning question, do we still have a 24-hour permit that a business has to have to be open 24 hours? Okay. That might also be something where you have, and this could go for large retailers too. If a supermarket just thumbs their nose at us, if they got to close at 10 o'clock, that's going to get somebody at corporate's attention, and I'm sure we're going to get compliance. I mean, I share, I think, most of my colleagues, in fact, probably all of them. I'm concerned about being too heavy-handed on small businesses, but I also expect them to comply with the law. Mm-hmm. And so this is, and you said 60% are not in compliance right now? Or
In the
did you
last
say
year-
85?
Over the last 2 months, we were at 85%. In the last year, I think it was 63 of our 70 or so businesses. So a little bit more than that.
Okay. All right, that's all I
And
have.
so my statement on that tells me one of two things. One, the industry, which are liquor stores, gas stations, convenience stores, don't want to listen to us. Or we're not doing a good job communicating. It's one of the two. But then you have said, I've communicated. So it leads me to think, okay, so they're willing violators. And so I can't, those both two can't be true, because I don't see this community of businesses are wanting to violate our ordinance all the time. So what is it that we can do to improve where it's not 85%? Because if it's 85%, I mean, they're all going to go out of business, because you're going to take all the permits pretty soon, because that's the way we're going to have to enforce. But that, I think, is on the enforcement side. I still go back to why the 1,000 per year, and so I'm still stuck on that. Go ahead, Lynn.
Just, I think, too, well, one, you said annually you're going to visit every retailer.
Right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
part of the cost is that. You get visited whether you've been fined or you're not,
But
right?
they
So-
don't visit the entertainment hall.
But that's not on our agenda
I
right now.
understand,
Okay,
but you
so-
have to be consistent and
Oh, okay.
justify for it.
But that's a different problem
Yeah.
to solve for. But that's your question about that, there's that. And I had another really great point. Which I've now forgotten.
We required to do that because of the grant we received?
Visit them annually.
There is
Moving
a,
forward, it's stated that they will, at the renewal, they will go every year. Yeah.
there is a grant that we received to do some enforcement. It's not nearly adequate enough to, one, visit every business in town, provide the level of education that we feel that we want to provide our businesses to help them stay open, not get significant fines to threaten their business, and provide an even playing field across the board. That's what came about for a $1,000 fee, to help us treat everyone equally, to provide the support that the industry needs to operate well. And we're just really a year and a half into getting the education to the level that we wanted at. We are seeing other issues that pop up through these inspections that are beyond just tobacco. That's concerning. And we've also seen the concern in the community for the products that are being provided to the community through these stores. So that's been the effort, is to provide a resource through our police department that has the knowledge, the expertise. I think we can see the expertise in the room tonight on how we can educate these businesses to a level that they are operating well and within the law, and that they're not at risk of other violations as well. So that's been the effort, not necessarily to be punitive and just charge a fee because we can, is to provide a resource to the community that is equally shared across the industry.
The other thing I was going to say is, I think this was introduced last spring, yeah? In May. And there was like, wait, we're not ready, could you help us understand? So it's been a year plus, and the violations are still out there. So I guess in that respect, maybe we didn't do a good job a year ago, and I'm going to say you've probably done a fine job. And maybe you folks can tell us what we didn't do or what we could do better to make sure you understand. But you came here last year and said, wait, we're not ready, it's too much. And we said, okay, we'll wait. And so here we are a year plus later. And I'm not advocating either way, I'm just saying that is sort of how it rolled out. The difference, I think, between tobacco retail, well, and I guess most of them have ABC licenses, but I think having more active ABC enforcement in our drinking establishments is one thing. If you have 6 tobacco state people that are doing this in some huge geography, we're never going to see those people here. So I think that's a distinction between the liquor sales and the tobacco sales. Again, not advocating it, but trying to explain, I think that's the difference. It's not exactly apples to apples.
And Mayor, if I may, on the entertainment license permit, that's directly related to calls for service that we receive for those establishments. We don't have a fee like per call, but we have documented the cost of going to those establishments. They don't have an annual inspection because we're not necessarily selling a product that's regulated by us. But we do have bar owner meetings, those kinds of things that they come in to make sure that they're being supported as well. So we have less bars being shut down due to fights and those types of things as far as managing their bars. So we do a lot of work to support the bars and making sure they're being managed well for the public good.
Maybe we can hear from the public. Let's see what they have to say.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. This time we'll go ahead and open the public portion. If anyone from the public would like to address the council on this item or have any questions, you may come to the podium. Please state your name and if you can give your address or organization for the
Turn this thing
record.
on? It's already on, okay. Good evening, council. Thank you, PD. Members of council and mayor, my name is Balwinder Singh. I'm the local president of APCA chapter of Fresno. As Officer O'Brien knows, I took over for Andy Chikara. There was a huge transition period within our group. We've met on numerous occasions through Zoom and also other meetings, so I just want to make sure the record's clear that we have established contact with the PD and worked with PD to come up with solutions that we can provide our retailers that are following the law, that have been established in the community, that have been here for numerous years, that aren't bad actors. And when I say that, that means more of I want to get to the risk factor part of it. A lot of our stores are in areas where there is a tobacco license already established, maybe on another corner. There's numerous competition. They have numerous licenses, whether it be ABC, tobacco, check cashing. They're highly regulated by the state. And maybe if they aren't inspected, That's a reason that we should be more educated in a way. And our association has provided numerous educational feedback to our members. And when you see our members in this crowd, you're gonna see a group of guys that are very honest. They're not bad apples. So I wanna have the distinction, shared here. When you look at tobacco retailers, we are more the convenience store side of it, where we're selling groceries to our communities as well. And we also provide numerous restaurant items like snacks and fast food as well. So we are not just a place where it just sells tobacco only. And those are being the distinction between like smoke shops, And I know with working with the PD, those weren't regulated. So they were allowed to be opened, but under whose watch? So those numbers are a little skewed there where you say the bad actors are causing these issues, but our own stores that also are involved with the community that do not want to see these things happen are the ones that are being proactive and have worked with PD. We've had a discussion a couple times, I believe, on Zoom, and we talked about how it would affect the stores. When you're paying a $400 license through the state, that's already going to be increased next year. That's regulated. Now the city wants to put another one on top of it just to regulate ourselves again. So the red tape there is what we're concerned with. We are very proactive in working with PD and allowing them to know that we also do stings in our own stores and prevent those things from happening, whether it be education for the clerks, whether education for our members of our association. So we don't represent a lot of smoke shops per se. We represent the mom and pop grocery store, convenience store, liquor store owners that also carry tobacco. So these licenses, the fees might not affect Walmart if they don't sell tobacco in the city of Clovis. They might not affect CVS, like the council member had said, but they will affect these guys. And so their overall line of sales from the tobacco products that were already banned through the state of California, which the state voted on, that they wanted to get rid of flavor, which we're all for. We have kids in our own communities that go to our schools that we have to provide, education for as well too. So we don't want to make sure that our kids are doing these things after we're selling this product. So yes, there is a problem with retailers. There's a problem with distribution in the state, but that's an overall factor that they shouldn't feel the grunt of that. So whether there's a list that says we can sell these items, we are allowed to sell these items, and the state of California comes out with that list and gives us clear status and tells us, yes, you can and cannot carry this, then we will be happy to work with PD completely and have those abolished. So the notion that there's, violations, we don't know what those violations are or whether if they have a missing fixture or if they didn't, fix their license correctly or fill out a paper correctly, or if they are selling those products, we have allowed PD to know that our association does not welcome those actors. We do not work with those actors at all. Matter of fact, we've taken steps to realize that if there's any APCA member that has broken the rules, whether it's regard to a CUP or ABC, anything pertaining to that, we usually do not represent them. And we make sure they're not in our association because of the education that we also do. And I hope that we can communicate further, but I think as a council, we should make a decision whether it's feasible for our store owners to pay for that have been following the rules that this city and the state has set forth for them already. So, and Officer O'Brien, I think we have spoke on numerous occasions, and so I don't want to say that we haven't. And so the dialogue is there, but I think there's room for growth within that dialogue, because I think our association can offer a lot of backbone to heavy lifting of maybe work that can be done with us and educating our members ourselves as well too. In regards to the destroying of like flavored products, I mean, the guidelines were not clear. So if you're gonna pick up a flavored product and then you're gonna expect them to pay for it to destroy that they paid for already, that they already lost out on that because we can't get it back from the distributor, we've already lost there. And then 30% of our business was maybe flavored in most of those areas, if you can see the amount of shrinkage that our shelves have seen. So the displays might look the same because they're covered with the same SKU. So they're always gonna look big. So the space might look like it's large, and we sell more than CVS or Walgreens or Walmart, but it's the opposite. they can carry the brunt of the sales, but our store owners that work daily, that maybe have 1 or 2 employees, they cannot. And we try our best to educate them. And if there's room for that, where we can work with PD on coming up with seminars that we can pay for as an association to educate not only the PD and our members, we are all for that. But in a way, there's no clear-cut list with regards to the flavor sales, and we are all for banning any item that should not be sold within our businesses, number one. That should not happen. We have a community to take care of afterwards too as well. We don't want to see a mess there. So, with that regard, we have really, really appreciated PD's work on this, because it's not easy to get to this point either. So we as an association support that, but the fee structure needs to be done. There's something needs to be done with that, because I don't think we can carry the brunt of that to be regulated even more. And so I would like to open discussion with PD and maybe have more dialogue and meetings going further, that maybe as an association to get our members together and go into a town hall and see which ways that we can push that. Because obviously here we're going to give you our concerns and we're going to tell you what we're feeling, but there's nowhere where we can justify how we can fix that at the moment where we're standing in front of you, so. But the fees, I believe, is a big factor. But our store owners will love to work with the PD. But going in there for 2 minutes is not education. It takes time. So that needs to be done with a group meeting that needs to happen. So, but thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Julie, you had a question?
Mr. Singh, I have a couple of follow-ups.
Yes.
You represent retailers in other jurisdictions?
Yes, sir, in Fresno as well.
Are there other jurisdictions that you can say, yeah, we wish you guys would do what X city does because they're mitigating the harm to the retailers? Is there anybody else out there that we can model or steal stuff from?
Well, if we follow what's going on with numerous cities around, and as officers have explained as well too, there's numerous cities that's like Fresno that's trying to adopt similar, guidelines as well too. But with them, we have become very proactive in getting dialogue together with them so that it might not hurt the retailer as much, which we can still work on finding solutions that we can, maybe police it better through, city staff, whether it be code enforcement that should be doing these. I'm concerned with when the numbers come out that say, well, there's numerous actors that were open and allowed to be open. Well, where's code enforcement? Aren't we already paying within our jurisdiction taxes that go to the city to pay for these numerous services? And if they were wiped out, why weren't we brought to the table to, as retailers, given the opportunity to work with them to come up with solutions for that?
Has your organization come up with a proposal to the city of Clovis?
We have. We've had Zoom meetings with them and given them our ideas.
I'm talking about an actual proposal. They say, hey, we would be okay with this level, with this amount, and here are the, hey, it's $500 for the initial, but if you've had a violation previously, it's $1,000.
We have made suggestions in that manner. I don't know if they've been taken into contact with this particular, ordinance. PD does know that we have made attempts to say, hey, well, if there's a business that has numerous violations, whether it be selling tobacco to minors, same as ABC goes, shut them down. You as city have power to shut those guys down. Whether it be 70 tobacco retailers in this city, how many of those are gone already? So let's say 15 of them maybe are bad actors. So weed them out. Making them pay for higher costs already when our entire stores are shrinking is not feasible as well. Our business is shrinking. So with regards to that, our association has worked on a national level as well. So we have a national president who is a mayor of Elk Grove, Bobby Singh Allen, and she is working with the National Tobacco Real Estate Retailer Board as well, along with the major players in the market to see how we can work with local municipalities to fix these issues before they even get tougher for us to even survive. So we are working with Fresno on that already. So
does Elk Grove have a really good policy?
They do. They do. And I'd be happy to, I believe we've talked to the mayor and we've made numerous attempts. I'd like to bring her aboard because now it's becoming a thing that we're gaining traction on, where our national level members are getting involved in, because they don't want to see more and more red tape. They want to see solutions to these things. And that would only happen if we had open dialogue and we met together. I'd love to continue that. And as I've taken over just this year, I apologize with the lack of communication with PD, and I hope they don't feel like we don't care, but we really do, so.
Because as a council, we kick this can down the road.
No, and we don't want to see it kicked further, but there's no clear-cut list to say that our stores cannot sell certain items from the state. And then we would like that to be attached within the city limits, where the PD works on that and doesn't use those extra violations against us when there's no laws that say some of those items at the state level cannot be sold, but the city of Clovis says that they can be, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Well, I think it's following along what Drew said. So it's been 16, May, June, July, 20 months since we started this in May of '24. I can't count, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So more than a year. So what would be, and I guess we've asked PD to hold on. They did all that work. Now they're back, and sounds like we might say hold on again. So I don't know. I'm struggling with that a little bit. What didn't happen in the last 16 months that there wasn't? Now, you talked about your transition, I get that, but so is it this list from the state that lists the 37 items that you must never sell, and if you are selling any of those, it's game over?
Well,
I guess what would be different? I'm struggling with what would be, I understand the cost, but help me with that.
I think it's more in the sense that the policing of the items. If there's a clear-cut list that says that our stores are only allowed to sell these items,
So
the
that's what
distributors
you're-
will not be bringing this stuff into the market. They cannot, because then the state of California has to regulate on them as well too. They can't have those flavors. They can't be pushing out stuff that is not allowed to be sold
But
in
you
the
can
state.
still get that stuff illegally.
Yeah, but look at the hoops you would have to jump through to get that. And in order to put that in your business, do you want to go through all those problems to sell stuff online and make a black market for it, which there's already is? You know, there's going to be a
Probably.
black
Somebody
market for
wants to do
everything.
that.
Yeah, and what I would say to that is more this. We have a budget downfall everywhere we go. So
Yeah.
obviously we need to look for ways to be proactive to make sure we mitigate costs for the PD. But we also, as businesses, have to survive to stay open, to make sure we pay local sales tax and be able to offer, revenue for the city. So if 15 retailers close, maybe, I don't know if those retailers were even inspected. Were they properly vetted or taken care of? I get that. So that's where it comes with a background check. And we're happy to do a background check, because ABC does a background check when you get an ABC license. You cannot operate without a background check. So that's fine. Maybe that the fee structure should be where a lot of these guys have already paid the fees. Okay, if you have done the right steps to go forward and make sure you're compliant, we won't charge you the fee anymore. We'll just educate you every year with the background check and then education materials that we should be providing already to the retailers. And we'll help establish that as well too, as an association, because I don't think our association would like to see our businesses not thrive. And that's one of the ways that we've stayed in contact. And I hope that that notion that we have not stayed in contact is realized. But yes, I agree. We have not done enough as an association to tackle this, because I think at some point we didn't want to get involved with a lot of the retailers that were doing the bad harms, and we were looking really, really horrible when it comes to that. And that's not our ammo, and that's not the reason why we represent these stores. We're mom and pop people.
Yeah, no, and I think we're trying to find what is that middle space? So somewhere there's a cost,
Yes.
and it's a cost to you all, literally
Well,
and figuratively.
It's a
But
cost to regulate ourselves.
understand, right, but I'm trying to figure out what's that tipping point that would make you go, okay, if I just had this, then that would make more
Maybe
sense.
put a momentary cap on new tobacco retailer licenses in the city. Are you going to allow more retailers to be open after the cap is like 70 was the limit? Let's say 15 have closed. In order to gain more from that, is that going to be a thing where it's like, okay, 15 more retail locations are allowed to be open now, so we're getting another $1,000 from each one of those locations again? And this can go from golf courses. If they sell tobacco, they sell cigars. So a golf course that says maybe makes like $100 of cigars a week is going to pay $1,000. You know, that's tough. I feel for any retailer that cannot pay these fees, which already we're stripped, and we're paying a lot of fees on top of what we're not doing. I don't want to take up a lot of the times. I know a lot of these, I don't have a store in the city of Clovis. I just came here to kind of show some support for not only the PD, the city of Clovis, because I feel like this is very needy as a city to kind of ordinance ourselves as well too, but I want the retailers to also be able to speak. And
I had a question for you. So you are in agreement that the items that we have taken are ones where you do not dispute is in, the items we have taken are those that are in violation of the California law.
From my understanding, talking to PD,
100%.
when they educated us on the items that were pulled from businesses that were not following the rules and regulations that the state of California said, when the flavor ban took effect, those were items that the PD were confiscating,
Okay.
pulling off shelves, and those were from numerous bad actors that maybe a handful of them, and maybe the violations that we had spoke to as well. We were very appalled when we heard some of the numbers, which is why we sat down to take the meeting in the first place, because I was appalled to hear the fact that the numerous violations that were happening from stores in this jurisdiction, that's not counting outside. And yeah, he's right. There's numerous business owners that own stores in Fresno or numerous areas that maybe take product back and forth. But we cannot control that, where those products come from. We can only control what we can as local real estate or local businesses, you know.
Okay. Thank you, Bowman. Anyone else like to address the council this time?
Good evening, council members. My name is Jasveer Sarai. I do not have any store in city of Clovis, but I am an APCA board member in Fresno, in this area from Tulare to all the way to Merced. So right now, there's a lot of product picked up from the store. It could have been returned to the distributor, and it could have been returned to the manufacturer. So last time we have a discussion, we have a Zoom call with the police department, and I mentioned that a lot of those cigarettes they had picked up, it could have been returned to distributor, and it could have been returned to the manufacturer, and they can get the money back. But the city of Clovis Police Department, they didn't do that. They had picked up number of cartoon cigarettes from the stores and seized them. So the store already lost the money. Right now, average cartoon cigarette costs about $125. If they have picked up 10 cartoon from the store, that's like $1,250 they already lost. Addition to that, they're charging them $1,000 to go to the store and pick up the item from those stores, which when they can return. So all the store owner already paying all the license fees from to the state or to the city. If the Clovis city has any license fee, if they have ABC license, they will pay for the fee to the ABC. And the ABC send they check the store. They send they bring the young people in and they give them a citation and they fine them if they find someone selling to underage. If they don't, they send him a nice letter. Thank you, we were there this time, you know. You guys did a very good job. Thank you. So if they continue finding someone selling, continue selling to underage any liquor or beer, their fine usually go up. Okay, it start from and they fine. They don't just fine them randomly. They just fine them on the sale. If the store has more sales, they fine them more. Okay. And then also, when they have a second citation, they make you to close your store for 30 days or 45 days, whatever their category. They already have that. But they don't charge you any additional fee on it. Just when you break in the law, you have to pay the fine. Whatever, it's in the book. Whatever they want to charge you, it's already there. It's not more or less. And they multiply on your sale. You have to send them your beer and liquor sales for the 6 months or the year, whatever they requested, and they multiply on that and they fine you. Either you pay the fine or you close the store for 30 days. So this is how they collect their money to do that operation, send the younger age people in the store and all that, whatever the cost comes to that, But right now, when we start charging $1,000 to mom and pop store, I understand you're going to charge them when you check their fingerprint and background and stuff. ABC does that too. Every time you either apply for a new license or you transfer the license, they check your background. Okay, they don't just issue the license. So, but the charging $1,000, it doesn't make any sense to me. Going and giving them a citation and picking up their product, which one they can return to the distributor and still charging $1,000, and they lose maybe like other $1,250, which they can return and make their money, you know. One time, it's understandable, you charge them one-time fee, whatever you charge for first year, but after that, if they are the bad people, you charge them the fine. If the second time, you can do double the fine. If they do the third time, then you just revoke their license. This is how it's supposed to be work. Not just, you know, punching this mom and pop store, for charging $1,000 every year. I'm not agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Anyone else?
Good evening, City Council and Clovis PD. Myself is Ravinder Singh, and I'm one of the business owners, actually a smoke shop owner in the city of Clovis. So my point here is I have only one business in this city and been there for almost like 10 years now. I start off with the thing that officer added, that we have been made a part of this ordinance before it was being put into action. That was not the case. This ordinance was approved, and then we have been given the hard copy before the July when it was going to be applied. Then we became the part of this. That's the first thing I would like to add. And then the issue with the products that we kept on saying, the products which are flavored and all, as it's already been mentioned over here multiple times, products keep on changing on consistent basis. And as a business owner, to be into the business, to survive, I have to keep up with my inventory. If I don't, and now the thing is, if it's a mislabeling, because I cannot go into a manufacturing facility or keep opening up those boxes because I cannot afford that. And that things are overseen by different departments, not by us. There is federal agencies, there are state agencies who oversee these importers and manufacturers. If they do their job a little better than that, probably we, as a retailer, don't end up being penalized. So that's the case. So if we can be part of this discussion, where we can come to a page that, okay, this is the middle point where we can meet, probably that's the best situation for us. A $1,000 fee, I won't be going out of business because of selling flavored product, but because of this over scrutinizing and the things which I don't have control on, maybe I'll go out of business. That's what I would like to add here. Thank you.
Javinder, let me ask you a question, Javinder.
All right, sorry.
So you're saying that the business model is where you're buying products where you don't know if they're flavored or not, but you also, if you open it, then you're liable for it? You have to pay for it?
Yeah, I cannot open a product. If I go to a distribution, I cannot open it. Or
Oh, okay.
we have no, as a retailer or a buyer from a distributor, I don't have any ways or means other than relying on the
label
labeling to identify whether it's a flavored product or not.
And then once it's in your store,
Yes.
and then we are inspecting, we find it, and it is flavored, you have no opportunity to return it, is what you're saying also.
Yes.
And then, so then you've lost because you paid, and then now we are incurring a cost to destroy the product, and also.
Yes,
Yeah, so that, okay.
because if I show you the invoices, all the invoices clearly states that all the tobacco sales are final.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Any other
Jasmine.
question?
Anyone else like to address the council? Okay.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sonu, and we have a gas station and, obviously convenience store as well in Clovis. And I would like to say $1,000 does get a hefty fees. And both state and local police, which they are in charge of it. And I can understand that they only receive $25,000 grant. But it states, it's also jobs of the city to make sure that they receive proper grants. If they're not getting enough money to stay, but why does the businesses have to pay for it? And obviously it's all taxpayers' monies anyways, it's coming from the state, but the grant needs to be increased from the state and not be punished by local businesses. And both my constituents has covered a lot of it already. And but a few things is that because of the few bad apples, a lot of being painted. And then we're doing on our side a great job, and a lot of people have been following the law. But at the same time, state has failed all these businesses because they have not done their job correctly. They have not done their job. Because if they had done their job right from the beginning, we wouldn't have been here at all. Because if there's mislabeled products out there, and if the products, how they're even getting onto the shelves, how they're not. The state is not doing their job, the feds is not doing their job properly, and yet still we're being singled out and businesses are being punished. Guess with what? Money again. And don't have much to say. It always comes down to that. Small businesses, mom and pop, always ends up paying, and we're always under the hardship. $1,000, like one of my friends said, they ain't gonna put a dent in there, but small dents will make a look, and it will hurt us over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council? Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Rajpreet and I'm a resident of Clovis. Even though I don't have a business in Clovis, I do have a business in Fresno City. But I'm here in support of the businessmen in Clovis who have like gas stations and liquor stores, smoke shops in Clovis, and I find it really, I would say, hypocrite to say that the city's going to say that there's a cost recovery that they need to get if the business is found in violation. There are already mechanisms to ban or like close the store down, suspend their license. Why are you going to charge us a fee just because a product was found to be in a violation of the state? Why don't you just go with the mechanism that are instilled by the state to ban or like suspend the store, I would say. And majority of the businesses here in Clovis are not owned by corporations. They're owned by they're mom and pop stores. They're not owned by Arco, Shell, Chevron, or anyone. They're owned by regular people like me who have like just one store or one gas station, one smoke shop. So I don't think paying $1,000 every year is a viable fee for us. And I heard Officer Brian and one of the gentlemen here talk about the background check fee. ABC makes us go through a background check when we get a license. The state of California, for the tobacco products, can make us go through the background check. Why do we have to pay $1,000 to you guys? I had to get my alcohol license to sell alcohol at my business. I had to go through a background check. I paid the fee for the background check. I'm ready to pay the fee if I need to go through a background check for the tobacco license. Why do I have to pay you guys a fee for that? I'm okay to pay a fee. I can go to authorized business here who does background checks, who takes fingerprints for federal agencies. I can go there and pay my fee and get the background check done and provide you guys with the documents. Why do I have to provide city an extra $1,000 fee for a background check? I don't think that's justifiable for the background check fees. And as Mr. Sonu here mentioned, this seems more like a state versus city problem, not city versus business owners. If you guys are not getting enough funding, you guys need to talk to the state. You're not going to impose a fee on business owners. And we understand there are some bad apples who are violators of the state law and city ordinances. It's totally fine. We're against those people. We want those people to be taken out of the business. We don't want to sell, I'm not married yet, but I'm going to have kids one day, and I don't want my kids to have like, smoke bad tobacco products or products that are like banned by the state, or like, I'm gonna have my kids run businesses in Clovis and Fresno. I don't want them to sell, or myself sell, banned products or all that stuff. So we are against those bad apples. But just because of those few bad apples, not every business owner should be punished in Clovis or in Fresno. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jasper. Anyone else like to address the council?
Bill Scott, 341 Evergreen. This sounds like one of those things, the phrase that the scariest words in the world are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I don't know what created this mess. I don't smoke, I don't sell cigarettes or anything, but just sitting here watching this. Somehow or another, there are a set of rules that are so Byzantine, labyrinth, whatever, that it requires almost a master's degree set of learning in order to understand you can sell the one with the green glass, but not the blue handle or whatever, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. But the idea that you want to charge these guys $1,000 a year, think of it like this. To me, it sounds very similar if the city of Clovis came up with the idea they want to charge $1,000 to every man that gets married for a domestic violence license. Because some men are going to beat their wives, and we need to recover the cost of going out and enforcing that. I don't see the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. Okay. I've spent my 45-year career in the ag chemical world, which is probably one of the most regulated,
What is your
most
name?
licensed.
Just give me your name.
Highland Kaufman,
Okay, thanks.
1677 Toll House Lane. And what I'm hearing here is there's a there that Clovis can maybe do something new. Rather than following the idea of a fine, and that do something similar to what the ag industry does, where an association such as this one actually takes on a collaborative role, as like Western Plant Health Association does with Cal EPA, to actually hold their regulatory conference each year. And Western Plant Health, the Association of the Ag Retailers, Manufacturers, actually put on the conference and organize it. People pay to come to the conference, so each store owner would pay to have their attendees come, and they get kind of like continuing education credits for having attended. What if Clovis comes up with some sort of model like that, rather than having a fine structure that I agree doesn't catch the bad actors, because they're not going to pay the fee. They're going to try to work underneath the radar. It's only the good players that actually play by the rules, and you don't find the people underneath. But it allows them to step up. It's the same as holding a heat index conference. You know, the Nisei League, they put on the OSHA training, and all the labor contractors have their employees come to learn about the heat index laws when it gets close to heat. So I don't know, maybe there's something there, and it is part of a regulation that to have the stores, as you go through your background checks, have something to where you would show that your employees have gone through the continuing education and actually have it be something real, rather than the officers having their minimal time being able to come. I think there's a there, and we could do something different. And rather than looking at like cities, let's be different and do something different.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Anyone else like to address the council on this item? Okay, last chance. Okay, yes? No? Okay, all right. I thought you raised your hand. So we're going to go ahead and close the public portion, bring it back to the council. Any further discussion, any further thoughts? Go ahead, Drew.
Actually, I have a couple of follow-up questions. And before I may not get the opportunity to say this was a great presentation. I know you guys put a lot of work into this. The fact that we've peppered you with questions doesn't mean that we don't appreciate the effort. It's I continue to be troubled by what appears to be a little onerous fines or the fees and stuff. But let me, do we limit the number of licensees in town like we do with ABC licenses and census tracts?
No, sir, not currently. So we've looked into that, and again, using some of our resources from different state agencies and nonprofits. But one of the tools that we've utilized for some of these annual fees is ways to get the public involved and help educate retailers. So one thing that we're doing right now is working with the Youth Commission to help them get more involved with this and create safe zones, as well as put a cap on the number of retailers, similar to what we would do with ABC licenses and census tracts. But identifying and creating safety zones, putting a cap on the number of licenses that we have, but not putting anybody out of business as some jurisdictions do.
One of the gentlemen talked about, he went through an ABC background check and had to go through a tobacco check. Do we have access to the, what is our background fee?
$400.
For tobacco retailers, it's
Yeah.
$400.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we get access to the ABC one where we could say, okay, if you have an ABC license, background check, it's only 100?
No, sir. And the ABC background checks are very limited. They more pertain to any prior violations under the ABC laws. And then one of the things that they do for their background check is contact the police department, specifically me, to look up any other criminal issues that we would have with them holding an ABC license.
So how much more in depth do we get with our background checks versus ABC?
Significantly. So we check local and state databases. We check other licenses that they hold. Specific for tobacco, we look at prior tobacco violations they might have had, as well as we make sure that they're in compliance with all their other licensure.
And if I heard you correctly, we've had people who've been in violation, they just shutter their business and walk away, and we never see a penny of that.
Yes, sir.
And it sounds like the people doing the distribution, the business that is tobacco, it sounds like they play a big shell game they create a new product and to change the name, but it's the same thing, different day. Is that pretty accurate?
That is a huge part of it. And for the majority of the bad actors that have closed down, we've had some pretty in-depth conversations with them. And the profit margins for, particularly with the vapes, they generally come in like a 5-container box. They pay about $5 to $15 for that box, but then they turn around and they sell them from anywhere from $25 to $50 per item. So in a lot of instances, the profit margins are too great until we go after them 3-4 times with citations and then physically start taking the products. And generally when we start taking the products and really digging into their profit margin in that sense, that's when we see compliance or when these businesses decide to leave Clovis.
I mean, I understand, having listened to a couple of the folks, they buy a product, they can't take it out, test it, and go, hey, this is flavored. They get stuck with an illegal product that they have to pay for that they can't take back, and that if we seize it, they're not going to see a penny off it and get fined potentially, or they can unload it in another town potentially, or sell it illegally here. It kind of sounds like they get put into a catch-22 for people who are trying to do the right thing is what the bad actors, I don't really care about them. They're going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to deal with them.
So having been to every business personally and giving all of the owners my personal contact information with phones and emails, I've created that line of communication and encouraged all of them prior to making a purchase from any distributor, especially if it's a new product that's come out, to contact me prior to making an investment and putting themselves at risk. I've had about half a dozen or so businesses and business owners take advantage of that, but the majority of the time what we see is they are trusting their distributor, putting it on their shelves and waiting for me to come by, and if they have less than a dozen or so, say, get it off the shelf, it's illegal, in which case they then come into compliance. as opposed to utilizing the police department as a resource and saying, hey, are these products illegal? Are they not? And if a business has even made a purchase already and it's not something that I've come across or seen, I tell them, I'm not telling you to take it off your shelf or stop selling it until I've done the research, because you've reached out and created that open line of communication. But again, we've seen very little.
And the problem there is you're going to do the research. Who do you do the research with if the state isn't on their toes here?
So most of the time when I see any of these products, the first time I'm seeing them is in the business that I've gone to, because it's the first time seeing it. So most people have a smartphone with Google on it, and you can go to any distributor out of California or any location where these products are legal to be sold, and you'll see the full flavor profiles on just a basic search. But then we'll dig deeper and we'll look at multiple retailers, where the distribution is coming from, and then even go so far as, especially but like very new products, there's people who are trying to be keyboard warriors, for a better sense, who go online and do videos of themselves doing full reviews of the tastes, the smells, the aromas, everything that has to do with the product. And I find this all out, or the majority of it out, if it's a new product, while I'm standing in the store with the owner or the clerk.
Is the state going to be coming out with a approved or disapproved list? I thought I heard you say that.
Yes, so by the end of December of this year, the state is going to come out with a list of products that are not flavored, that are legal to be sold as not flavored. We're still waiting to see how comprehensive that list will be, or if it will also include items that are illegal under the federal level, because the state isn't enforcing unflavored products that are still illegal on the federal level. So the state will come out and say, well, this isn't flavored, so we're not going to deal with it, whereas it's got dangerous chemicals in it, anything like that. So we're waiting to see if the list is going to include those items. And then when a new product comes out, as they do, it has to go through the state's testing process to either be added or removed to that list, which takes an extensive amount of time.
So there's going to be an approved list, not a disapproved list.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, they're getting paperwork questions because, quite frankly, I think everybody in the room is probably thinking, wow, this is, because I can foresee a situation where if I'm an unethical offshore tobacco retailer, distributor, I'm going to find a way around that system every day of the week. It's almost like moonshiners. You know, we'll just, we can outrun the revenuers and we'll be fine. And I think that's where we're at with this industry, unfortunately. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Diane.
So one of the things I was thinking about as I was hearing from the industry is when we're talking about the violations and the different retailers who are found with violations, can we separate out whether it's something like, a mislabeled product that we're like, hey, this is wrong, or selling to minors, or like those ones you say where the profit margin's so great they're just kind of ignoring us until we take the product? Can we kind of have a sense of like maybe the tiers of violations to know exactly what we're talking about with the 85% who have violations? How serious are those versus these distributors, these offshore manufacturers that are causing so much trouble in a state that doesn't want to enforce its own laws and make us do it instead? Where can we kind of see a breakdown in that with what we're talking about?
So for that 85%, just over the last 2 months, the 23 out of the 27 retailers, those were illegal products. They're not legal to be sold anywhere, but they're unflavored, so the state does not do any enforcement on them at all. And before 2023, the police department didn't do any enforcement or take any approach to enforcing tobacco laws in the city. So that 85% is federally illegal products that are not allowed to be sold at all.
So how does that work with the distributor? So the distributor should know those are federally illegal, so they shouldn't even be distributing them. Where does that come into play?
That would be one of my federal counterparts that I've never even met.
Yeah. So we're kind of having to do everybody's job.
Somewhat, and that's why we look for partnership with the retailers, because a lot of those products, the FDA puts out what products are legal. And on the state side, every time a new publication or a product is found to be illegal or there's some change in it, the state from the Tax and Fee Administration sends out a letter, and I can go to them if I have a retailer saying, well, we never found out about this, we never got that information, and I can get the exact date that they were mailed that letter to the license on their application.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting, so what did you just say, of the 23 out of the 28, say that part again?
23 of the 27 retailers that were visited over the last 2 months for
85% of what you confiscated was illegal federally.
So,
Is that what you said?
And we didn't take any products in those instances.
Okay.
So those were federally.
That you found.
We found. And we haven't addressed that issue because there are bigger issues with the flavored products and what's enticing children, which is the whole point of this ordinance, is stopping access to kids. And so we haven't broached that so much. We know the information's already been supplied to the retailers, but for the majority of those products, they're federally illegal. We weren't going to seize them because the state's not seizing them at this time, but they're still illegal and on our store shelves.
So I guess from the retailer's perspective, and I ask this with all due respect, of the 23, did you know they were, and don't answer this, did you know they were illegal federally to sell? There's something that's not adding up here. Like it's as complicated, because if they're illegal federally, did you not know? And how would you not know that? So that's why I go back to ask your question. What is it that would help you know what you can and cannot sell? That's what I'm struggling a lot with. Because if 23 of you are selling things that are federally illegal, do you not know that?
Of which 23, though, what I'm asking is the PD has not provided that list, but I'm sorry.
No, I know. But I mean, to me, that's where I'm struggling. That's where.
Hold on. Yeah, you don't need to answer.
Yeah,
Lynn is just asking
I'm
out loud.
rhetorically
Yeah.
saying that's hard to wrap my. No, it's okay, it's okay. But that's what's hard to wrap my mind around, right? So that's what I'm struggling with. So I don't know how to unravel this. And Mr. Scott, you're domestic violence. I love you, but that's a terrible analogy. No analogy around domestic violence is, so I'm just kidding, but that's bad. Don't do that. But I feel like we can't keep saying more time, more education is not going to change behavior. If people are going to sell illegal stuff, they're going to sell illegal stuff. That's just the way that's going to go. So I can't quite get to, like, let's just delay this a little longer, because we've already delayed it since May of 24, and now it's almost 2026. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, and I do not discount for a second all the work. You must know more about this than anybody in California. So I don't think we can discount that. But I do hear you. Is there some hybrid way of a risk assessment? If you're near a school, is the fine higher? Maybe you looked at all that, but here we are today. So I feel this is a little bit like our water rate problem. I think we should implement the ordinance, keep doing our homework, and then if we learn to adjust it, we can adjust it. I don't know how to buy more time. The more time we buy, it just costs PD more. So somehow that's not really working. So I would be in favor of the water rate model, which I thought was terrible at the time. But let's move forward with this, because it's been 18 months. Keep doing your homework, keep having conversation, figure out the model. I don't know, have a conference, whatever that is. And if we can adjust it, find a risk adjustment, square foot adjustment, near kids adjustment, come back and let's adjust it, and I'll figure out how to give you your money back. I don't know, but I feel like I don't think we can wait. I don't think we can wait any longer. There's too many uncertainties here. So that would be my proposal. But keep working on it and come back in January with more research, more information, and see if we can adjust the fee. But I don't know any other way to do it besides the way we did it with our water bill, which was we implemented the fee, and then we adjusted it, and we figured it out. So I don't know what else to do at this point. There's too many, unless we can start monitoring distributors, but then that really is the state's job. And that's not, we don't know where they're coming from. So I don't see any path forward at the moment besides going forward and then adjusting it. Continuing to work with your members and your retail and your members and RPD and see if we can figure it out. I don't know what else to do.
Andy, you had something you wanted to say?
Just a note on the fee. So annually, we come back to council, typically, and very rarely we haven't, with the master fee schedule, and it is looked at. So we have some built-in checks and balances with that. If council chose to move forward with the fee, we'd be happy to work with the industry going forward. I believe we've had quite a few licensees pay the fee already, if I'm not mistaken, officer, correct?
Yes, sir. Around 58 for this year and all of them last year.
Yeah. So just to give you some context, that likely will be back probably in the late summers, usually when we do the master fee schedule, into the early fall. We could come back earlier if a solution comes, but we would have that item on the agenda for council's consideration at that point as well.
And maybe there's something about if you have no violations, you pay a lesser fee. I mean, you get rewarded for following the, you want to follow the rules, so you get a good rule follower discount. I'm not sure, but there's something there. I just don't know exactly what it is, but for me, I would make a motion that we amend the master fee today and continue the work with retailers and your members. And thank you to the 58 who have paid, and see if we can figure out some solution, and we can bring it back later to amend the master fee if we find a solution. And I do believe there's something out there. I just don't think we're going to get there tonight. We've been talking about it for 3 hours, 2 hours. We're not going to figure it out tonight, for sure.
Drew, you had some comments.
I have a counter proposal on that. I agree that we should push through. I don't think we can't kick the can down the road. My amendment it's a $500 initial fee with an owner with a clean record. $1,000 for applicants with prior violations. And then we start from there. This way we're rewarding people who are currently doing the right things and have done the right things in the past. People who have not complied, and that's the thou. And potentially at some point I even stepped it up here, but I don't want to legislate from the dais. I would say $500 initial fee, clean record, $1,000 for applicants with prior violations. We revisit this when we do our master fees, and we work with our state legislators to come up with
I wrote that down too.
Something to fix the problem statewide. Is FDA, are they the agency for this federally?
It depends on what aspect of it, because the ATF will also have a hand in it.
Oh, I forgot about the ATF. Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that? The 58 owners that have already paid $1,000, do they get a refund if they qualify for clean record, or do we go forward for this and then the next year we adjust it, or we adjust it for everybody when we figure it out?
That's a very good. Yeah. I'm open to the conversation.
Diana, did you have something you want to say?
I have a motion on the floor just for the record,
Right.
so,
Okay.
but I'll take your amendment if there's a way to do it, but
Right.
I do
No,
have a
I
motion
get it.
on the floor.
Okay, let's see if there's a second on the amended motion,
Well, or-
and then we can do discussion? Okay, we haven't amended yet, okay.
I'll
so there
just
it
make
is.
my motion
so-
to move
Okay,
forward.
There's a motion to move forward as presented. Do we have a second on that? Okay, there's no second, so the motion dies. Now we can continue discussion. Okay.
I just want to work on this a little bit more. We're close.
I do like where it looks like maybe we're headed now. I think one of my biggest frustrations and why it is so complicated and confusing is because even just now, it's like, okay, well, the state isn't even enforcing the federal laws. Nobody's doing what they're supposed to do on all of these other products. And now somehow we're really just trying to protect the kids, and we really just don't want flavored tobacco. And then it's being all relabeled every week. And so, I mean, holy moly, how in the world are we supposed to accurately come up with something that makes sense, that everybody can understand, and is actually doing what we want it to do, which is get the bad apples out, which is what everybody wants. So I find myself more frustrated with our state partners for kind of dumping this on us and making us figure it out, and I'm not quite sure what my path is moving forward with that, but at least on this specific topic, I still had a problem with the $1,000, just in the sense that, again, it's so complicated. A lot of them are trying to do the right thing, but the industry itself is making that difficult. So I'm just incredibly frustrated for everybody involved. I mean, good grief, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, I have to own up to my decision to vote on this in 2024 without reading it in detail. If we are going to accept things, my issue is not with what we're trying to do, is do we make you pay for it? That's the issue. If government wants to do this, why are we punishing you? If we want to do it, we got to find funding to it and to do it. So that's my issue where no fee. There's no fee. If we want to take it, it was our initiative. The state said, local jurisdictions, you can take this on. And we said, sure, we'll take it on. And I'm thinking we're just helping the kids, flavored tobacco. And in other words, it's what you're already doing anyway. And now it's not until we heard from the industry, oh, but they're paying $1,000 a year. They keep paying, and it seems like it's gonna be forever. And I go, well, no, that's not fair. We took this on, we created this, and then we'll punish you. Too bad. All tobacco retailers. No, we own it. We should have found out where, we should have found out why, and it's my mistake for not reading that we were gonna, find an industry or get an industry to pay for something we should be doing, we want to do. It's part of our job. There are things that the state mandates that we do, but we don't go out taxing our citizens all the time. They say, hey, turn on the wipers when you drive. We're not going out and just, trying to, put laws are put on us all the time. And yet on this one, we said, since it's tobacco, no one's going to complain because it's a vice. And so we'll just charge you. I go, no, it's business owners. And if it was just Walmart and Target and all them, I'm fine. They can handle $1,000 because it's a drop in a bucket for them. And I do agree with Mr. Scott. We're letting the good players pay for us to punish them, kind of look after them, because some people might be violent. Hey, we already have the stick, which is the fine. If someone messes up, fine them, be harsher, be stronger. And so I'm a no fee because I don't hear the justification. If it was for the beginning, where it was gonna take education for the 4 hours and some background, yeah, that's okay. If we're gonna spend that much time, I was okay, but now it seems like, we want this money forever. And I know we're gonna visit it again, but I bet you next year, we're just gonna go, oh, it's good, because hardly do we ever return money when government takes it. And so no, I don't see a justification for it. We have enough officers, we have enough there to be able to do this. And if we're good at it, we'll keep doing it. So I'm there, so
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Lynn's got her light on.
Well, and we charge people fees for a whole bunch of things. Using a park, renting a basketball court, same deal. Should we not charge fees for that? There's a cost to that? There's a taxpayer?
Not $1,000. You look at these fees and the only thing that pops out is this red 1,000.
Well, I think the amount.
And so it makes it where
I hear you.
I don't just see the justification for it.
Okay.
But
I think we do charge fees for lots of things
I
to
agree.
cover the cost. So I think we can cover the cost of this. I think that's legit. I don't know if it's $1,000. I mean, I think you're onto something. I don't know if you're onto something from the dais right now. That seems a little weird to figure out how to do that from here. But whether it's less to start, less if you have a clean record, you get an ABC credit if you have a good ABC clean record, I don't know. But I just don't think we can do that from here, and I'm reluctant to continue this again, because we're coming up on 2 years of talking about this. So anyway, my motion didn't have a second, but that's kind of where I am at the moment.
I don't think we're kicking anything down the bucket because the ordinance is already in place. We're only talking about, do we charge this moving forward? So that's
58 people have already paid it.
I understand, that's why we're not kicking anything down. It keeps sounding like we already have the ordinance. It's already in place. The only issue is, the only issue why this was continuing is we're questioning, do we charge 1,000? So there's not kicking anything down. We charge it, don't charge it.
But we already charged it.
We already have the ordinance in place, so there's no kicking down the bucket. Bucket down the road. Go ahead, Drew.
To your point of, we already have the PD to do this, this is a very specialized enforcement scenario. This couldn't be done from a patrol car. It would be.
From what?
From a patrol car.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't do it. Potentially, what we could do here is approve the $1,000 fee tonight. Tell the industry that they need to work with PD to come up with some type of graduated fee for people with clean records, people who have prior violations, people who have prior violations with significant noncompliance. The list will come out from the state. And then we all, I hate to say the word circle back, but we can, at the very least, push this out until sometime next summer. Give the opportunity, and quite frankly, the industry is going to have a little bit of a gun to your head. You're going to have to do something to work with our police department to come up with some workable scenarios. And, you know, granted, there's going to be people who aren't going to want to do anything. Okay. And quite frankly, I'm okay with in the next year or before we revisit this, you get suspended, have a nice day, you don't have a license anymore, but that's a whole different thing. So do you want to say?
Yeah, Diane, you want to say something?
I just wanted clarification on exactly what is currently being enforced. Where are we on that $1,000 annual fee? They are required to pay it, and we're just re-upping it for next year? What exactly is the action?
Andy, can you give clarification on that?
So the fee is set in the master fee schedule. It was a cleanup action to put it into the master fee schedule last time. Council had approved it at $1,000 previously. Staff was trying to, a few months back in September, clean that up. And that brought this issue to light. That's why we're here tonight. So the request tonight is to put the fee in the master fee schedule that was previously approved.
So the fee exists.
Correct.
With or without putting it in the master fee schedule?
That's, yes.
So technically, the action before us tonight doesn't have anything to do with the fee itself, just putting it in the schedule?
The council does have the prerogative to change the fee at this point.
Okay, okay.
With the master fee schedule action.
Okay.
I have a motion.
Oh, was it a motion?
I'll have a motion.
Okay. Before you do, I do want to say this, and I think with regards to a minority community, I'm speaking now from experience, a minority community, and not that we treat everyone different, but you do have to message a little bit differently, not just an email, not just a text, because I think you have the defense that I've tried. But I think the relationship is not built. And so whether it takes a council member, the city manager to work the relationship, whether it's 1,000 or not, to where now they do call you more. I think that is something that I think we need to improve, because I think there are industries we are already good with, building industry, school district, people who we are, you know, more comfortable with. And it's also a part of you, meaning you need to start to be more comfortable with Corporal O'Brien, because he's in charge of this, and you need to start to reach out and work with him and extend a hand out to him, because he's going to be enforcing this, and he is great at this. And so because of that, it takes both sides to really, you know, let's work on that relationship, so that way we can formulate the education, the communication in a way in which we'll move forward much better. And so depending on whatever the motion is that comes out, then we'll see where we go. So, go ahead, Drew.
It's similar to Lynn's. We approved the fee as stated and include the annual retailer's licensing fee. At the next approval of fees, we will revisit this. In between, staff will work with the industry. I'll be the council contact if we want. Actually, usually when somebody's absent, we usually give it to them. So, because they're going to throw Matt under the bus, but I won't. I'll be the contact, but the industry needs to work with the PD, and I'll be involved obliquely. I'm not going to get in the middle, but at the very least, I'll be able to give some information. So when they come back, we want to talk about reduction in fees, applicants with prior violations and things like that. But we will approve the fees as stated in this item.
Councilmember Messenger before, is there a second?
I'll second that, but I have a couple amendments
Okay.
potentially.
Okay.
One is, everybody pays the annual fee on a different time schedule, right? Not everybody pays it on January 1st, or do they?
It's renewed by July 1st of every year, and they're supposed to reapply by 30 days prior.
So everyone pays it on July 1st.
Yes, ma'am. By July 1st. Or when it's a new business and opens up.
So I guess what I'd say is, okay, that answers part of my question. I think what I'd say, the only thing I'd say is I would bring this back in 90 days. Because we don't want to wait till next summer, because by then you will all be late paying your $1,000 fee. And then it just starts all over again. So I would say 90 days. What is today? All of November, all of December. By the end of January, we should have this resolved with a new number. Then we can amend the fee schedule, and then you'll pay a new fee in January, or in July. If in fact we're going to adjust anything about it, or everything about it. I don't think we can, I think that point is the fee's already the fee. So we're not actually making a new fee, because you're already paying the fee. And 58 of you have paid it, so and we're not going to pay you back, because that would be complicated. So, got your money for this year, so I think if we give it 90 days, end of January, have to have a new fee in place.
How about March 16th? That gives everybody time to get through the holidays and give staff the opportunity. The March 16th meeting would be the last meeting of March 2026.
I'll meet you in February.
Okay, let me
I
go
don't care.
back.
I don't care.
How about
I just don't want to get too close to July.
the 17th of February?
I want to make it enough of a time so that you don't get caught in like, I got to pay and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, I'm trying to give it some urgency. No, but we don't want to collect the wrong fee. So, okay, whatever it is, February 17th. In between then and now, you work with Councilmember Messenger and the PD, and you see if any variation, what Elk Grove's doing, all the things we've talked about tonight, minus the domestic violence example. And we come back with a recommendation and we implement it so that when July 1 comes around next year, we have the right number in place. I don't agree with you. I agree with you most of the time, but people got to pay a fee for what it costs. So you as an association, part of your job, I used to work for a hospital association. Part of our job is to make people do what they're supposed to do. So that's your job, to get you all, maybe you don't get to be in your association, or whatever you do there, but I think you have a role too. It's not just a government heavy-handed. So that would be my, Drew, that would be my second. So I second your motion if we can do it by February.
Okay, is that clear?
As mud.
Okay, so if I can repeat the motion, that the municipal fee schedule, master fee schedule would be amended per the staff recommendation to $1,000. We would come back by the third meeting in February with any changes that are proposed after staff has worked with the industry, including our
Motion and a
council
second
member.
on
Yeah,
that
I agree with
discussion.
that.
Okay, I have it. I'm going to throw another monkey wrench out there. On the $1,000, even though it's already been established, is there an option to say it's going to be $500? And what if those who already paid the 1,000, is there a way to credit that to next year? So it's like their 1,000 covers 2 years if it's a $500 a year fee.
That's another potential amendment to your motion, to make it the 500.
I would
instead
have
of
to
1,000.
defer to finance on that, what kind of a nightmare that would cause them.
I guess if I could, I would remind council, the fee is already the fee. It's already $1,000. It was $1,000 July, it's $1,000 today. It's just amending the fee schedule. So the fee is the fee as we sit today. And to add some clarification, I mean, we could do that if you wanted to, but the fee is the fee right now. So I think my suggestion would be, and I think Drew's motion somewhat covered it, approving the fee to be added to the fee schedule for this year only. The fee is going to be $1,000 through the end of June. Whether you come back in February, June, January, whenever it is, we're going to be considering or proposing the fee to take effect for the next year.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a possibility, right? I think that's an option. Probably not from the dais tonight, because I think that is messy, but I think that's part of what we could talk about.
Yeah.
So if you paid 1,000 and you were a good actor, then maybe you get 26 free. I don't know, something like that.
Covered, yeah.
So,
Okay.
I'd like to call
so
for the question on that motion, please.
There's a motion to approve the fee and with other additions to it as Lynn and Drew stated. Scott, you have the motion pretty clear with regards to the work between the industry, but it is the $1,000. And so we have motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. So the motion is approved 3-1 with one abstention.
I do have one request of the industry. Do not come back in February and say, nobody told me, nobody knew, I didn't know. Please don't do that. So reach out, PD will reach out. We want to help you. But I think we don't want another year of nobody told me, because we see what we're telling you now. So help
Yeah,
us
please
help you.
Work together.
Yeah, help us help you.
Councilmember Bessinger will be,
And we would appreciate you talking to the non-members, having conversations and saying, we are. That's one of the reasons why I tell you why we're here as well, too. Great.
We have a huge platform.
Sure.
I'm sure people see what we're posting too, but it's more towards the education of the
okay.
And I agree with Lynn. You can't come back in February and go, we didn't have time. Yeah.
Thank you, Corporal O'Brien.
Thank you.
Corporal Alcorn. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Thank you. I did not state that there were 6 comments and public comments. I just wanted to note that for the record, and it's about a transit stop in Harlan Ranch. And so we have that. It will be in the record. Now we'll move to item 8. It's the receive and file update on the impact and enforcement of short-term rentals in Clovis. And staff on this is our Assistant City Manager, Paul Armanduras.
This is my favorite topic. But you wore me out on tobacco, so fine. Whatever you say is fine.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor, members of the council. All right, starting with the background and some history on this, almost a year to go to the date, November 12, 2024, staff presented an overview of short-term rentals. At that point, we had just really started our enforcement on this. Some of the items discussed during that meeting was the progress on compliance. There was some council discussion about having a more stringent code. There was additional conversation, discussion about gaining more data before proposing any ordinance changes or changes to our code. And ultimately, what was discussed as well was improving code enforcement or continuing to improve code enforcement and engagement. So just as a reminder, the operating standards of short-term rentals falls under Clovis Municipal Code Chapter 958, which is home occupation permits. These are just some of the highlights of our current code. By no means is it all-inclusive of all the items under that code section. A definition of a short-term rental is any rental that is less than 30 days. There are a couple permits that are required. There's a home occupation permit, one-time application fee for that, and then a business tax certificate, which is like our business license fee due annually. Compliance with our fire, building, health, and safety codes is required. We also require a 12% TOT or transient occupancy tax to be paid for our short-term rentals. Some of the restrictions that apply is our short-term rentals can be for lodging only. No parties, events, weddings, or commercial use is permitted. Additionally, we do not permit the use of garages or storage units, pools, RVs to be rented out. There is only 1 unit per address in multifamily buildings that is allowed, and then we also have a chart in our Muni Code that lists out the occupancy based on the number of bedrooms. Some of the operational rules that are required is we require a 24/7 contact and on-site response within 45 minutes from either the property owner or property management. That's if we should we receive noise violations or any other code enforcement complaints. Another requirement is that the property owner or property management must require neighbors with their contact info once a home occupation permit is issued. Vehicles must be approved, vehicles must be parked within driveways, and each unit or each property must have a minimum of 2 off-street spaces, so they have to have at least 2 spots within their driveway to park vehicles. and quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., or excuse me, 9 a.m. A little more background. So in spring of 2024, I had mentioned just last year when we reported to council about short-term rentals, we had recently just gotten contract with HDL to help identify rentals in Clovis. So we knew that we had several units out there being rented on various sites, Airbnb, VRBO, there's 10, 20, 30 of them out there. And so we contracted with HDL to help us locate all those rentals within the city limits so we could start on our compliance or getting them into compliance with getting their home occupation permits, business licenses, and paying TOT. So we worked on active identification, registration, outreach, enforcement, and then from there our code enforcement team was engaged on nuisance reduction, setting different enforcement timelines, and really compliance accountability. So in the last year, we've made some progress, again, with the help of HDL and them doing quarterly reviews. We've been able to identify about 174 listings. This map shows the variety of permitted and some units that are in poor standing right now are in pending status. So we have 105 units that are currently compliant, 16 units that are under enforcement, and that middle number right there is somewhat important to note. We have 53 units that have canceled. So that means they could have canceled based on not wanting to be in compliance with our code, just getting out of the business of short-term rentals. It's too onerous of a, to get the appropriate permits and maintain that, or they had some code enforcement violations and just didn't want to deal with that anymore. But 53 units are no longer actively being posted on websites. Prior to 2024, we had fewer than 20 units that were compliant. So in the last year and a half, 2 years, we've made huge strides in gaining compliance amongst our short-term rental properties. Calls for service, more progress on enforcement. This last year, we had 111 calls for service. That's the year prior, we had 150 calls. Most of these calls are regarding parking and noise nuisances, and there could be duplicative. So if there's a party going on, there could be several residents calling that in, and then we could have several calls for that one instance that's going on. We have had some domestic disturbance, some theft and vandalism, just a handful of those code violations or PD violations. That is a 30% decrease in calls from year to year. And we do have ongoing monitoring of high call properties. So there are a couple properties out there we've received several calls, and we're actively working with those property owners and getting into compliance, kind of giving them a last chance before contemplating revocation of their permit. Fiscal impacts. So this last fiscal year in TOT tax revenues, we brought in $270,000. That's a $70,000 increase from the year prior. Our current fees are $271 for the occupation permit and then the $245 annual business tax certificate. And we currently have the contract with HDL, which is about $30,000 annually. It's actually a little less than that. So in this process, we did perform code reviews for other jurisdictions. We looked at Long Beach, City of Fresno, several other municipalities or jurisdictions throughout the state. And there's some common regulations or actions that we found. Of course, registration and licensing being required, which the city currently does. Mandating inspections for unsafe conditions before a homeowner is approved. And so we don't specifically have that in our current code. However, we do have in our code that these homes must be in compliance. And so we're working with our building division in implementing an inspection, whether it be an annual inspection or at the time of issuance of permit. And so we're working on improving outreach and looking into those safety hazards if there are any. Again, lodging only, banning recreation vehicles, pools, storage units as short-term rentals. Our current code already has that. Max occupancy is something else that our code currently has. Some cities do have rental caps, so cities may limit the number of days a property can be rented out per year, or the number of short-term rentals that can exist within different areas of the city or along one street of a city. So we don't have a certain amount or a cap on our rentals currently. And then suspension or revoking of permits, again, allowing the city to cancel or suspend a short-term rental for non-compliance. So our code does currently allow that. We can revoke a permit should they not be in compliance with our current code. There are some cities out there that have complete bans where they have enacted outright bans on short-term rentals and moratoriums. They don't allow them at all. We don't currently have that. So right now, recommendation or next steps, again, just to recap, our calls for service are down nearly 30%, which is good. We currently have about 90%, I think it's like 88% of our short-term rentals in compliance with our permits and TOT. We continue to make strides on that with the HDL and our code enforcement team. Our current ordinance provides, we feel as staff, provides a sufficient framework at this time. In the current budget, we do have the hiring of 2 new CSOs who, amongst a lot of other code enforcement items, but will help with enforcement of short-term rentals. And we're going to continue enforcement and monitoring, issuing notices and citations, try to stay on top of those those properties that are have frequent calls. One thing, again, we are considering is revoking permits for high-call properties. Staff will continue to monitor emerging trends among short-term rentals and what other cities are doing. And we will revisit the ordinance should a change need to be made, or should council wish to make or recommend any changes to make sure that our current code remains effective and responsive. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. Available for questions.
Councilmember Bessinger.
Do we, some of the residences we're talking about, are they, any of these located in Old Town off of an alley?
Yes.
How are they parking those vehicles? Because you can't park in the alley, can you?
So you're not supposed to park in the alley. Some of the calls for service or calls to code enforcement have been from some of the units in downtown Clovis. We have our cottage program where we have units on the backside of alleys. I believe the code requires vehicles be parked in a driveway or off that alley. However, there are times where we receive a call that toters are remaining out there or an alley is being blocked. And so we'll try to address that through code enforcement.
Because I remember when we were discussing standards for Old Town, we had a group of people coming in complaining about the cottage homes and about parking, things like that. So we're on top of that.
I will say
as best we can be.
As best as we can be. We still have, I've personally received a call probably about a month ago regarding that issue. So it's, I don't think it's frequent, but it does occur.
Okay,
sometimes.
thank you.
I'll just make a couple of comments. I've obviously talked about this a lot. It does change the nature. I think like they also talked about it does change the nature of a community. So we have one in our neighborhood. It's across the street from my house. So I have personal feelings about this, but just a couple of comments. Can you refresh my memory? The home I've had this conversation. Home occupation permit used to be in the old days, and why can't we do this anymore, Scott? That if I had a home occupation permit, I want to do seamstress or accounting or cut people's hair, I had to get the 10 houses around me to say, yep, I know she's going to do that. We don't do that anymore. So I really don't know. The news to our neighborhood when we got this house was a surprise. So the home occupation permit doesn't require any neighborhood engagement at all?
It does require,
Yeah, good.
so
Paul,
the short-term rental requires noticing adjacent, it doesn't stipulate a certain number of neighbors, but it does require noticing adjacent neighbors. But however, in our process, it is after the home occupation permit is issued, and then I believe they have 10 days to notice that those properties, and show the city proof of noticing those properties, just adjacent to that one.
But we don't have to sign. In the old days, you had to sign something. It was like a petition.
Yeah, that specifically is not required.
Yeah, I think that went away a long, long time ago for any home occ permit.
So I guess I'm going to say why. It was super helpful. Whether I was tutoring kids or had a seamstress, I mean, all those examples, that used to be, I had to engage. I will say we didn't get that notification in our neighborhood. This isn't about me, by the way, but there's 180 of them in Clovis. So that doesn't happen. So I think if there was a way that the home occupation process required you to engage with the 10 adjacent houses, it might be, at least you'd have a face-to-face conversation. So I want to say that. The second thing is, after all of that, about $1,000 fee, I think these permit fees, $271 per application, should be an annual fee. the cost of the calls to service to the house on my street are far in excess of $271. So I don't exactly know how that works, but it just seems like we just spent a long time, 3 hours almost, talking about this fee. So I just wonder about that fee and the calls for service cost.
And just to keep in mind, we also collect occupancy tax on these, which is significant. So there's another form of revenue coming in to cover those costs.
Understand, but I mean, I think people for 271, I don't really care if you call me, you know, I mean, I think there's something about that. So I guess I would just ask about that. So I'm not sure that it's enough. And then I do think at some point we're going to have to talk about limiting the number in a neighborhood. Like it's Old Town, for example. I think Old Town would be in support of limiting how many are down there. So down the road, I think that might be something. And then I guess my last comment, one is big houses have lots of cars. So it's not uncommon for the house on our street to have 10 or 12 cars, which is just, in a quiet neighborhood, it's kind of a lot. So it does change that. So I think that's an issue. And then the other issue is the trash. No one ever takes their trash cans in. So it just sits out there week after week after week. And that's an incredibly expensive code enforcement call for somebody to come out from the city and stick a citation on your trash can. So I think it's all fine. It's not about me, but it's about 180 other houses that are experiencing this. It's not great. I think it's expensive. So I guess if we're gonna charge fees to try to recover our costs of code enforcement, occupancy tax is great, but I bet it probably exceeds in some cases you could eat up your occupancy tax. I appreciate all you've done with it. I think it's just worth paying attention to, but it is, as one neighborhood, it's very difficult to have this in your neighborhood. There's nothing about it that makes the neighborhood better because of this in our neighborhoods. That's my personal speech. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I would just like to see if we can add this to like our annual survey or talk about it in our general plan to see what the view of our community is with regards to this sort of product in our community. And if the community goes, oh no, it's just business for everyone, let's go for it. Okay, at least we understand what the community wants. And so I don't know where we can do it, Andy or Renee, if we can bring something like this up to just talk about visioning and what we like, or if it's in the annual survey, it'll give us some feedback on if a lot of us are feeling the same way.
We can look for opportunities on that.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll go ahead and open up the public portion. Anyone in the public like to address the council on this item?
My name is Zach Just. I live at 7-8 North Pulaski. We have a short-term rental right down the street from us, so I just have a couple thoughts like Councilmember Ashbeck does. I would support the annual fee of renewing it, and I would also recommend or propose adding language to that permit that the applicant has to read, that they acknowledge the Clovis way of life and how this may be in conflict with that, and how running or operating a short-term rental, how they should do that within the Clovis way of life, in keeping with our community values. I do think that short-term rentals can change the neighborhood character. We see that. We see people coming and going at weird times. We're just up on Pulaski, so we kind of know when everyone comes home, when everyone leaves, what everyone's doing on the weekends. So seeing people come and go at weird times and is not very conducive to that. And then as far as the potential areas, maybe limiting it within the Old Town areas, I would be supportive of that. I'm not a huge fan of the urban sprawl, which is why we live in Old Town. And so to push that to other places where it doesn't have the same neighborhood character, I'm a little bit biased, but that would be fine by me. Thank you.
We'll start a short-term rental therapy session, man. We can all go together. It's very hard if you don't live there. It's very hard to understand it, so I hear you.
Anyone else like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, this is just a receive and file. Any other comments, suggestions, or direction you want to give to staff? Okay, thank you, Paul. We now move to item 9, request to submit a letter of opposition unless amended, to H.R. 5147, the Wireless Leadership Act, and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Clovis. Staff on this is our city manager, Andy Hausman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Last week, we had a member of the public comment on the Wireless Leadership Act, HR 5147, expressing some concern. So council directed staff to bring the item back for consideration of taking a position. So just some background on what it proposes. It places limits on the city's ability to regulate the deployment of small cell equipment on city facilities. So small cell equipment is what you see, a picture there to the right. That is the new 5G standard, at least the best picture I could find. We do not have one in the city of Clovis. And these are installed on light poles, electric poles in a neighborhood to enhance wireless connectivity, mostly to offer 5G wireless service inside the home. That's my understanding. The bill requires tight timelines, 90 days for the city to permit the approval of this. If we don't, it becomes approval by right. So if we, at day 92, they can just go build it. That prohibits any regulations that effectively prohibit wireless service deployment. So it inhibits our ability to say no in certain areas if we want to maintain character, say in Old Town or certain parts of town. It would override our existing city policy and agreement with the carriers the city developed in 2020 to address the issue. So in 2020, the SEC came out with some regulations on this, and through that process, the city developed a master service agreement, I believe it's called. Am I blanking on the exact name? And that allowed us to work with the carriers on how these would look, how these would feel, where they could go, what the permitting process was, and we streamlined it for them through that process as long as they met our standards. The goal of this legislation is expand and improve wireless coverage and service in the whole entire country. So the current status, it was introduced in the House of Representatives and is in committee. It has not been approved by either House of Congress. It's very early in the legislative process. The impact, it overrides the city and industry agreed upon master license agreement. I apologize for calling it a service agreement. It removes the city land use control, and there has been very little implementation of these in the facilities in Clovis. So for whatever reason, mostly because I think of our topography, we have not seen a huge amount of demand for these facilities. There is one in Clovis. It is near Raising Cane's Chicken, and that is it right there on the very top of the pole. That is a 3G or a 4G facility. It's not quite as robust, so it's a little better looking. And the design is through that master agreement we have to help it look less impactful. So the staff at this point, based on how early it is, we request to submit a letter of opposition unless amended. That amendment would be to exempt localities like ourselves that have developed a master license agreement for small cell wireless facilities, because we have an agreement in place. We'll continue to monitor this legislation and come back to council if it seems to be growing some legs. But that concludes staff's report, and we're available for any questions.
Any questions or comments for staff? Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public portion. I would like to comment on this. Okay. Seeing none, bring back to the council. It's the pleasure of the council.
I'll make a motion that we submit the letter of opposition with a copy to our Congress.
I actually wanted to have just a moment of discussion if we could.
Let's see if there's a second, and then we can discuss. Do we have a second? So no second on the motion? Okay, motion done. Okay, waiting. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
I reached out to Congressman Vince Fong's office to find out from the author of the bill, who is Congressman Bob Latta from Ohio. And what we heard back from Congressman Latta's office is that their intention is to have some protections for state and local jurisdictions. And the way it's worded in the bill currently in Section 2, I believe staff believes there's still a lack of clarity and kind of definitive exclusion for a community like Clovis that has a master license agreement. So I have contact information for the Deputy Chief of Staff for Congressman Latta's office that I would like to suggest our staff connect with and try and work it from that angle rather than submitting a letter of opposition at this point, particularly since we're so early in the legislative process with it. I think we can have more effect if we approach it from that way rather than submitting a formal letter.
What's the?
I'll take away my motion. So we said we would do last week, so that's fine.
Yeah, if we can get there another way, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
I think there's consensus. Do we need a motion to that effect? Or
Motion to table it,
because
or?
there's no, There's
Well, you're not,
Action
you're
is
not,
to
you don't
submit.
want to approve the letter at this point,
Yeah.
correct? So you're
So
just
we're
giving
just-
direction to Andy and staff to
Direction
reach
to-
out?
Yeah.
reach out, yeah.
No problem. It's very early.
Okay,
Pause.
all right.
It was a good letter.
Yeah, it was.
We're ready.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Now we'll move to city manager comments.
Get caught up here. First off, tomorrow, city offices are closed for Veterans Day to give everyone a chance to honor those who have served us so much. I encourage everyone to go out to the Veterans District tomorrow, the Clovis Memorial Veterans District, with all their events. Go out there and honor those who have served us. Truly appreciated from me. And then on Wednesday night, we have our first, this season at least, meet with the mayor and city manager of Clovis. That'll be right here in this room at 6 p.m. And I just want to highlight, next week we'll be doing it again on Wednesday at 5:30. The focus of that meeting will be on changes to this council chamber that council has asked us to take a look at. Last week, we announced that as being in December. Based on some feedback we got on people not being available, we tried to push it up a little bit to make sure we got some good engagement. Shred Fest is this weekend out at the Clovis Rodeo Grounds. Very popular. Get there early if you want to get your paper shredded. And then lastly, so this is exciting. So the last, including this meeting, 3 weeks, we've highlighted some investments from Measure Y that are coming forth. We had some, our firefighters being hired, some officers being hired in PD, and then this bathroom has needed a roof for probably about 15 years, and it is getting done. The roof was torn off.
Is that my park?
It is Gettysburg Park.
That sign was not there yesterday when I walked my dog.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I called you today and I said, where's the sign? And now there's a picture.
So the demolition occurred last Friday, fence went up, and then now they're starting to get at it. We put the sign up once we had the area clear. So we're just letting the community know that those investments are flowing into the community, and this is an example that'll make a big impact on that bathroom. I think we did some interior changes to it in the last year or so. This is the last step to protect it. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, this time we'll move to city council comments. Councilmember Bessinger?
I attended the North Kings Groundwater Sustainability Agency meeting on last Wednesday, and I have nothing to report out. And I will be at the Veterans Memorial District tomorrow night, and all veterans in town are invited for a meal. So hopefully we'll see people there. Thank you.
Councilmember Ashbeck?
Well, I had the Measure Y sign, so that sign is magic. It appeared. Woof. Anyway, so it was great to see the construction. It was great to see porta potties in the interim, which was super thoughtful. But I think having the sign when we do Measure Y projects. I've been here too long. Measure Y projects is super great. Just a couple of items. So not enough kudos for our staff for the Peg Boss Plaza dedication on Wednesday last week. So Andy, excellent job. Renee, excellent job. Your team, amazing. All the city staff that went out there. And it just really was so wonderful to be able to see that come to fruition and to honor Peg at age 95. So super great that she's still with us and could see the honor. And she was, it was such a great day. So thank you for that very much. A couple of things. Another kudos to the staff for the response on the food. Thank you last week. So this week you were having a hard time with the date. It's Friday or is it Thursday at 9?
So we've ordered the food. It'll be here late Thursday, and we'll be packing it at 9 a.m. just like this last week.
You're sure?
Yeah,
Not
we're
Thursday.
Sure. We're sure. Yeah,
Andy was
got
like,
a little misinformation.
Thursday. Wait,
and then-
Friday.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
Thursday. So it was
So
confusing.
we have quite the crew coming from city staff to help, but all are welcome.
Super great.
Yeah.
I do have a request, and I don't know exactly what my request is, but I would like us to consider an agenda item at some point to take action, maybe next week, to talk about how we allocate funds for this. We typically don't invest in those kinds of services. In all the years I've done this, we don't. We typically, City of Fresno gives lots of money away to nonprofits, and we typically don't do that. So I would like to ask my colleagues if we could have a discussion on broadly do we do that? And specifically around food in this case, can we make a contribution to the food bank? Can we set aside funds for food? Can we open a food pantry in our senior center? This is not going to end, it's not going to go away. And I think to be prepared to do that, I think you had a generous donor who made the last one possible. But I do think the city of Clovis can step up in a way that supports the whole. The city of Fresno gave $250,000 to the food bank. I'm not suggesting that by a long stretch, but I do think that it would be right for us to be able to make a contribution to the food bank in a case of emergency, which is what is happening now and will continue to happen, I think, over time when it comes to people's basic needs, and particularly seniors. So I would like to have an agenda item discussion about how to do that and maybe how to make a contribution to the food bank or a food pantry or something that would support the senior center going forward. I don't know where the money's coming from that, besides a donor, but I think we probably need to kind of get ourselves clear on what we want to do around that. So I would like to ask for an action item for next week if we could get it on the agenda, if there was interest in supporting that.
What's the feel of the council? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Okay, so thank you for that. I just am super, super proud of that. And then finally, I had the chance to attend the funeral service of Jim Aldridge, and Jim was a longtime Fresno city manager, and it was great to represent the city there, and he was really a trailblazer in his own right. So it was really great to be there and to support him and his family during that. So, and that's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce.
Also, just acknowledging tomorrow is Veterans Day and our gratitude for those who have served our great country. And then just a note on the Peg Boss Plaza dedication. It really was a great, well done event. And I think the most incredible moment for me was when the big plaque on the bottom of the pedestal was revealed, because A, it's amazing. And every time I drive by, even just on the way over here tonight, I drive by it and the lights that are on it, it's fantastic. So extremely well done. But to see Peg's face when that came down and she saw that plaque and her name on it, I mean, she got tears in her eyes. It was so sweet and meaningful. And I think, like Lynn said, the fact that she was able to be there for it and had so much family there to share that honor was really, really great. So I'm glad that we were able to do that. And again, that visual is going to stick in my mind. So thank you to everyone for making that happen. And that's all.
Thank you. I also agree with the Peg Boss Plaza. Our honor guard did an excellent job, and then just the design itself, it was beautiful. So congratulations to everyone. With regards to the Veterans Day Parade, I think we say this every year. When Mayor Ashbeck was mayor, we did not get an invitation to the Veterans Day Parade. And so I have not received anything. I don't think Andy has either. And so that's why they keep saying it's the largest on the West Coast, potentially of the United States, but yet the city of Clovis, who serves veterans very well, is not invited to participate. So you can go go and watch as a regular spectator, but as a city itself, I have not received any. I just wanted to put that out there again, that hopefully they will invite us next year.
Someone's listening.
Yeah. Went to the DSS Native American event, which is done in conjunction with the Indian Child Welfare Act of this area. And so DSS works alongside with the Native American Child Welfare Act, and they do a celebration. But really, it's to showcase the partnership of Fresno County in working with our local Native tribes in handling child issues with child protective services issues. And this is only the 3rd year that they've been in that partnership. And so the tribes have been doing it themselves all this time, with the county doing its own thing. And the collaboration has made it where that services can be jointly given together for the child, where the county is an expert at taking care of these items. So good to be there. Thank you for organizing the food bagging last week. Thank you to the staff, especially Jay's team, and our city manager and assistant city manager for being out there with a couple of the volunteers from general service or from the senior center coming out for bag. Was it 200 something bags? I forgot. Yeah, 120 bags, and so that was very nice. And then there was a ribbon cutting for Sweet Frog, which is the very best. It's sort of a frozen yogurt place, but it's in that shopping center, Fowler and Herndon. So that one commercial center there. So Sweet Frog came. I think this.
Tell me where it is, which corner?
South.
It's on every corner. There's a commercial there.
It's by the meat market. They took over Fanco Insurance.
Shepherd.
Oh, Shepherd, sorry, yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah, they
Falmouth
took
Garden.
Fanco Insurance, their
okay.
unit there.
Okay.
Yeah, so they went in that spot,
Nice.
so. And so if you are living there, that's probably the closest one in that northern Clovis area. So, and then I wanted to put on our radar, January 3rd, 2026, I think Lorenzo came in here and we had a joint meeting. And so Clovis Unified, us, and the Memorial District want to formally recognize the Hmong community for 50 years being here in America. But it's actually celebrating the handshake between Colonel Bill Ayer and General Vang Pao to join in the Secret War. So really it's a 75-year celebration of that handshake. And I think the theme of the event will be honoring Clovis Unified employees to city employees who are of Hmong or Secret War descent, honoring those, and then the community at large, all the professionals that, and the veterans and the professionals of the contributions that they made. And so the invitation is going to come out to the entire council and then to Andy to invite all our staff to attend. And then Yolanda is on the committee as well with regards to the school district. And so that way getting the school district and all the different clubs to participate. It is January 3rd, that's Saturday. And so it'll happen out there. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar.
Anybody to invite?
You and the rest of the council. And so I just want to put that out there right now. And then I think next week is the Measure C meeting where the allocations will be coming forward. So the staff will be preparing an analysis of sort of the allocations that were put out to the public. And so it'll best prepare us for that COG meeting on the 20th, I think, next week.
Can I make one comment about
Yes,
that? So I think it's important that the recommendations on allocations and categories had a 94% support of the steering committee. There were 2 no votes. I think that, given the kind of the contention and all that's gone through, I think that's a pretty, I was very pleased. I think it's a good step forward. So I think it's coming to the COG board with as much input and support.
Yeah.
So I think it's not perfect, but I think that's a good sign.
And I will say to my fellow council members, if you read it and you have comments, please also submit those, unless you want to go down to the meeting itself, or if you want to let me know your thoughts, so that way I think we can be as comprehensive as possible with regards to the allocations. That way we can represent or stand as united as possible.
Do you want to put it on the agenda next week, just to take a peek at it, or is it too soon? Just a thought.
Yeah, well, I think you guys will be meeting on Friday, huh, Andy?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
so
a pretty tight turnaround to get you accurate
Yeah.
information. It's because the COG has their Friday meetings with the TAC, the PAC. I'm not sure what the results of that would be. Then Monday night, we could turn around and provide an update. I could provide an update during my city manager comments for sure. And then I'm not sure what kind of direction you would want, Mayor, from the council as a whole, but that is your prerogative. If you'd like an item for that discussion with council, you could do that.
I think Thursday or Friday, we will get the agenda, and if it is an action item, then I will present it. I don't know how we do that, Scott, because
I think we could include just really a placeholder item on the agenda for the discussion.
So that way we can discuss it.
Measure C discussion.
Do we do something?
So the COG board is going to meet before we meet in December? Is that the
Yeah.
issue? Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to need to take you're going to need to have a position to take into the COG meeting before we meet in December?
Yeah,
So,
well, just,
and then Just so council understands, there's also an additional steering committee meeting after the Monday meeting.
Mhm.
So
And
there's
those are
just a lot of
for
moving parts,
guidelines, huh?
so.
More for the guidelines. The allocations are
Yeah.
pretty much set. And I think that discussion is pretty critical, at least for this body, to hear, and so.
I think just to inform you, so you, because you do
Yeah.
a good job of representing the whole, not just what you think, but what the collective thinks. So maybe just a placeholder item is,
Yeah, we could do a
No written
placeholder
staff
that allows
report.
for a discussion and
Yeah.
then do
Yeah.
a brief presentation on what's
Okay.
yeah.
being contemplated,
can
and
put that
then
on
you
the
can
agenda.
react to that as a whole.
We're all open to that. Okay, that'll be very helpful before the meeting. Okay, that's all I have. We are going into closed session. We have one item. It is a conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representatives, Andy Housley, Parmentiers, Amy Hansen, Scott Cross. It's employee organizations with the Clovis Police Officers Association. If you would like comment on this, you can do so at this time. Scott, are we expecting any to report out on this?
No, we're not requesting action tonight.
Okay, no action. All right. Thank you. We are adjourned, 8:49.